Sports.
Final 30 seconds of the quarter. Second down throw to the end zone. Douglas. Touchdown, Texas Tech. What a drive.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Sorsby the key. What a cut! Broken ankles! See ya!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Another first down for Vandy. Pressure off the edge. He steps up, and now he's going to run for the end zone and score. Diego Pavia.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Brown takes another shot. Wide open Koger. Touchdown, South Florida. 63 yards.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
The weekend is here, and next time we're on the air, it'll be the day of the kickoff, the college football championship game on Monday night with Indiana and Miami trying to win it all. And as we've mentioned, Indiana's never done it, and Miami has done it 5 times, but not since that incredible team in 2001. Paul Catalina to my left and Craig Smoak to my right. Thank you very much. If you are watching us today, however you digest us, please, on the YouTube channel, hit the like button or subscribe to us. We would appreciate that as much as you can and will, and pass the word along as well. Couple of quarterback news. It seems like, of course, that's always the dog, and the still some openings. And Darian Mensah, Duke, this one right here, we keep asking, like, who's going to fill this or who's going to fill that? This guy's a hell of a player. The chance that he's going to be a part of the portal.
Yeah, the Duke is concerned. I mean, nothing has happened yet, but the portal closes at midnight, and Duke is very concerned that their first-team All-ACC quarterback, Darian Mensah, who is a potential All-American. I mean, this guy led the ACC in passing. He's a really good player. He was fantastic at Tulane. Duke's paying him $4 million a year. He is under contract, but he has decided to put his name or not decided, we don't know yet, perhaps go into the portal. And with Miami looming out there, that's the question for, who's not in the portal yet. Is there going to be a surprise late ad? There've been a couple from Ole Miss that we'll talk about, but this would be by far the biggest one if Darian Mensah jumped into the portal. And just to add to this, go ahead and go to the next one, Brandon, on him, in that Pete Thamel is reporting that he does have a contract that Duke would have all of his NIL rights, and they would have the total options of what to do with that. So we'll see how that goes. So it would have to be for at least as much money as he would get at Duke to go to Miami. So I don't know. This seems like maybe perhaps another DeMond Williams situation, but Duke has been concerned and let it be known that they're worried that Darian Mensah might get in the portal. And with Miami and Tennessee out there lurking, teams that have a lot of money and more football success than Duke, I completely understand that they would be nervous until he does or doesn't go in.
Yeah, I mean, it's the domino we thought was going to fall as far as the quarterback spots, not Darian Mensah specifically, but something was going to have to give for the teams out there that were still looking to have a chance to get a guy. And there's been a lot of this. Even when we talked to Pete Nakos earlier in the week, he kind of alluded to something still that could drop. And I've seen other little whispers of, well, there might be some moves or a move coming that could shake things up and could surprise some people and throw a curveball that people aren't expecting. So don't write off Miami just yet, for example. And here that curveball is, and it's Miami going after Darian Mensah, even though to show the silliness of this entire operation and why it can't be taken seriously when we start comparing it to actual professional leagues like the NFL or any professional league for that matter, is this is a young man who less than a month ago was writing about how much he loved Duke and how he was returning. And now we've learned he's making $4 million and he's a part of their revenue share agreement. And man, the ACC title run, and this was all great. And now a couple of weeks later, and the team that's in the league he's already playing in that got the bone thrown their way that they ultimately have taken and ran with and shown they've deserved to be in the playoff, Miami, is now like, well, we need a quarterback, so screw your contract. We're going to come after you and try to get you anyways and maybe even complete the deal. We'll see how the next couple of days go, I suppose. But, yeah, to think that as a Duke fan, not that long ago, you were sitting here celebrating this announcement of this return and your quarterback coming back to finish off his career, and now you might lose him to a team within your own conference at the final hour of the portal being open. It's fun if you love the messiness and the drama and the chaos. Like, it's the very best, but from an actual, is this smart, like for the sport to operate this way standpoint, no, this is ridiculous. Like, this is ridiculous that Duke could get all the way to the end of the transfer portal and at the very last minute have their star quarterback who they've signed to a contract leave them at the final hour for an in-conference rival. I just find that completely absurd, but if you love the messiness, then this is an awesome story. If you are more of a rules person, this is example 1,723 of why they need some interference from an outside party, or they've got to burn the whole thing down and start from scratch and rebuilding it. So, yeah, what a bombshell that could occur. Not occurring just yet, but as Paul said, Pete Thamel pointed out that there is this rev share agreement part of this whole thing. And so there's questions as to how that would operate and work if he were to try to flip to Miami. The school's understanding his contract calls for them to have his exclusive NIL rights, and only Duke has the ability to cancel that. So the only way he can access revenue share money is through Duke unless they terminate the contract, which why would they do that? Mensa is in year 2 for a deal that pays him up to $4 million. The ability for any school to pay him outside of revenue share would be scrutinized. So being scrutinized doesn't stop anybody from doing things anyways, but I don't want to hear Miami ever complain about, well, the portal's crazy and I can't, because it's the same things we were talking about yesterday. The schools talk about rules until they need a guy, and then they are free and happy to try to figure out how they can possibly break those rules. So we're going to see if Darian Mensah tries to break out of that rev share agreement or convince Duke to let him out of it so that he can flip at the final hour. And either way, it's a big story. It's definitely in that basket with Damon Williams a couple days ago, and just the pile keeps growing as far as crazy things that are occurring. Yeah, because Damon Williams signed a new deal. He's going back, and then, a day or two later, next thing you know, he's shopping around, or his agent is, and we saw how that ended. If Duke controls his whatever it is when it comes to how much he would owe or anything else he would get, it's pretty simple. If, in fact, he was to leave, I want all of it, especially because of the time. And even if it was 2 weeks ago or whenever the portal began, I want all of it. That's why you signed the contract. Players have a lot of power, but thank goodness there are some of these NIL agreements that do build into, like an NFL thing, where you got to give something back, like a buyout, or so to speak. The NFL, if he was under contract with the Dolphins and all of a sudden he's not a free agent, he doesn't have the right to leave, he could hold out, but guess what? He misses the entire year unless they can trade him to somebody and get something in return. You can't do that in college football. He could absolutely go, drop out of school, right? And then re-enroll at Miami. But at minimum, I don't know if he can do that, but that's just what we talked about with Damon Williams.
Here's what I think. Just based on what I've read, if he doesn't want any money, he could do that exact thing. But if he wants money, then he's going to have to find some other way to get it.
But is it specifically revenue share money that you're talking about?
NIL money, I think, too.
Well, I think the question is if Duke doesn't let him go, then he's not getting any revenue share money whatsoever.
None.
Whether he stays if he stays, he would. But if he goes to Miami, he's getting none of that. But I guess the question would then be, how does Miami go and pay him? Does the collective? That's what the tweet pointed out, of like any payments outside of the revenue share agreement would be scrutinized, which, okay, you'd be looked at under a microscope. Doesn't mean you're necessarily getting punished for it. But so, yeah, Miami's collective would then have to find a way to work around and pay him money that way. but that's obviously going to be under a microscope, and it's against this entire enterprise of doing things on the up and up, which, boy, it didn't take long, did it, guys, to see two examples in the final week of the portal being open of teams who are, we need guardrails, and then the moment they need something, they're like, screw the guardrails. Like, we got to go poach a guy and break a revenue share agreement. So this is why things never get done, because the schools themselves never want things to actually get done, because they don't want to rule out and completely eliminate their ability to break the rules to get a fair advantage or an unfair advantage. So, yeah, this is a crazy story, and I don't know if we're going to get a Darren Heitner tweet at any moment of now he's representing Darian Mensah. Maybe that'd be good news for Duke.
He does do a lot with Miami, that's for sure.
Yeah, he sure does. So I don't know to what extent anybody's involved in this thing, but I know with the Damon Williams deal, it was, hey, Darren Heitner is now representing this guy, and less than 24 hours later, he was back at Washington. So I'm not sure if it'll be a similar situation here or if Mensah leaves, and then I don't know what that opens up, but it is the big curveball that I think people were sort of alluding to, or one of the possibilities. This is the one that's actually today happening, and it's happening at the final hour of the portal being open.
All right, so in the chat room, how would you handle this? Or how would there's like 90 different things it seems like you could make changes, but what are your thoughts on this Darian Mensah story, or what should happen? How can you button this up without it being an issue? Because right now there's not much you can do, but holding his rights to NIL, there's still a way around it. If in fact, like you said, he left school, and somebody from Miami could still possibly pay him.
I mean, do you think they can?
I'm going to reach out to Darren Heitner. I'm going to send him a direct message.
But I think that's the question: is can they do that? And if they did, then it's under a very big microscope, because this is not what anybody agreed to.
Right.
Nobody agreed to rules where, oh, well, we're going to poach a guy, and we don't have his revenue share agreement rights, so he can't get any of that money, but we're going to pay him through a collective or some other avenue that's not really what this whole thing was designed to be about or for or agreed upon. And then that would, like, here's the thing, is in what music do they face? Are we going to lawsuits now? Like, does the NCAA actually try to put the hammer down on Miami for clearly trying to work around the system? And does Miami even get skittish whatsoever? Because what is the NCAA even right now? That's all I think. If this goes through and continues on to where Miami's like, no, we're getting Darian Mensah, then we're going to learn the answers to those questions. And I think it's going to be a pretty pivotal case in trying to figure out, all right, what are we doing here, part 462? Because, I mean, again, just yesterday we were talking about how the schools are the NCAA. The schools are the ones that need to enforce themselves, to the point where you got the SEC talking about breakaways just for enforcement purposes. And you can see why. Like, this is a great example of why. Like, why would Greg Sankey's trying to get everybody on board, and then over here across the other side of the country, you got Miami trying to break a revenue share agreement because they need a quarterback desperately. Like, you're just never going to get everybody on the same page unless there is some just sweeping motion that they have no choice but to agree to. But in the framework, the way that it is right now, it's almost like an animal caged up. It's like the electric fence, and they're testing, like Jurassic Park, right? Like, they're testing the fence, and they're trying to figure out like how they can still like get through the fence almost. And I feel like Miami's very much grabbing, like, oh, that shocked me a little bit, but didn't shock me to the point I'm not going to try to see if I can't open it up another time and weaken it a little bit. And that's kind of how I view it. I don't think I explained it very well, but Miami's definitely testing the system.
Well,
the security system right now.
We have, not right now, but here in this opening segment, we will have a tweet from a college football coach, a small school, who called out the SEC commissioner and also another university in the SEC. We'll discuss that in a minute, but it's about the possibility of tampering, according to the coach, and I've known the guy since 1989. And would be a great interview, but he's not available to be a part of the show today. So there's Darian Mensah. I'm reaching out to Darren Heitner, who is also very heavily involved in Miami. So he may not be able to say much to me other than just an example. Can you leave? And then if you have someone tied up into your NIL, vice versa, can you still get paid by somebody off to the side? Now, John Mateer, I have to be honest with you guys. I mean, he was good, and at times he was not very good, and ended the season pretty well. But I did not had not even thought about John Mateer. He's a guy that can at times be very electric and also be very frustrating. I did not know he even had a decision to make, but returning to come back for another year, along with Kip Lewis, a great linebacker, among others, at Oklahoma.
I think this is another one of those just like, hey, let's promote things type of a decision. Now, granted, I guess John Mateer could have thought about going to the NFL, and maybe he sat down and had a few thoughts about that. And I can't imagine there's a world in which he got feedback that said, hey, yeah, man, we totally need you to jump into the pros right now. There's not a single scout I can imagine that said that to him with the way his year finished out. He needs another year in college. It's very clear. I think his pro aspirations are a long ways away. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to clean up some parts of his game. So I don't think there was really an NFL decision to be made here. I think he would have been taking a pay cut going to the NFL based on where he probably would have gotten drafted. Now, granted, it's a very shallow quarterback class, but he's just not a guy ready for the NFL right now. And so I guess there's also, so I think the NFL thing, like, oh, I'm not going to the NFL. It's like, okay, like technically cool, but I don't think that was a real decision to make anyways. And then the other one was, were you going to jump in the portal again? And so I look at this one like the Bear Bachmeier announcement, except for this one makes a little bit more sense because he's actually eligible to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But this is like the Bear Bachmeier thing, and where I look around the room and I go, well, of course, what else were you going to do? I mean, you could have gone somewhere else, but why would you? And what point would that make? Oklahoma's like your dream destination, as you said just a few months ago. You're getting paid very, very well. You're the starting quarterback. You just helped this team in some ways make the playoff, and you've got a lot of work to do in year number 2 there in Norman. So this is, to me, just one of those like promotional, like, let's put this out there, get people excited about next year, even though it's obvious this was going to be the end game. And we just get people goosed up for 2026 and get the hits on social media raised up a little bit. That's what I look at this as, because, the decision I don't think needed to be announced, but to get people excited, okay, I can see that standpoint.
I got to tell you, I'm sorry. I got to tell you, I didn't even know what his eligibility situation was. I just kind of had forgotten about him. I did not know if he had a year left or what. I didn't know.
Now, look, the negatives about John Mateer are he wasn't clearly quite ready for that, but he still had a good year. Oklahoma had a good year. They were in the playoff, for God's sakes. So that's good. The other thing, the good part of that's the negative, but the good part is, look, the guy clearly loved playing at Oklahoma. I mean, he did. You watched him. He was having a blast. If he stays for the year, and he's going to, that means that he has a chance to get a lot better. They can put better talent around him. They can give him a run game that's not just him. There's all these things they can do. And, I think anybody who watched Joe Burrow in his first transfer year at LSU would have told you, like, yeah, this kid's got some moxie, but I'm not going to pick him first in the draft. And then after that year of working on it, of having the talent around him, of having all those things, hit a gear that nobody saw before. So John Mateer now has potential to do that at Oklahoma, especially with Isaiah Satania coming back. They've got some good things going. He should absolutely stay there and make a run at the SEC title next year.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at it through the college football lens, or especially an Oklahoma lens, you see that and you get amped up. You're like, hell yeah, man, even though if you're like me, you never knew there was a decision that was needing to be announced anyways. But it is something that is a big piece to next year. And so just to have it confirmed, I understand why they do it. And that's all well and good, but he has a lot of proving to do. The injury definitely set him back. To what degree, I'm not sure we'll ever really know, but he wasn't ever quite the same after that. And ultimately, he kind of turned into the player that I saw at Washington State, where there's a lot of big boom plays, but there's also a lot of big bust plays because he's trying to do too much, or he makes a bad decision, or he reads the defense wrong, or whatever. But he's an exciting player. I mean, there for the first month of the season, he was like in the Heisman frontrunner conversation, and then the injury and all of that occurred, and he was never quite as sharp as he was there at the beginning when everybody was just sort of bowled over by him. But I think this is obviously great news for Oklahoma. The bigger news to me was that Kip Lewis is coming back. Yeah. So that's the other announcement that was made, is that Kip Lewis, their star defender, is going to be back in Crimson and Cream next year. And you had Satania just yesterday announcing he was going to be back. So he and Mateer will be a great pairing again next year. And Kip Lewis is a big-time guy for them. So that defense gets some good news as well. And that, to me, was probably a bit more of an actual question of like, hey, will he be back? The answer is yes, he will also be back. So, yeah, it's a big day for Oklahoma.
I saw Kip Lewis when he was a sophomore high school player at Carthage. High school player at Carthage, and he was dynamic. Of course, that's one of the great successful programs in Texas football history. And Scott Surratt, the head coach, told me then he will play wherever he wants, and a very, very good player at Oklahoma, and a big play. By the way, Darren Heitner told me he can't discuss it, so that clears it. I'll send it to a couple other agents.
It
answers the questions on whether he's involved
It's interesting that he can't.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Pete Thamel just a second ago, he does say that Darian Mensah plans to enter the transfer portal. He submitted his request for transfer paperwork, so that now goes to the level of actually about to be official.
Well, I guess they're finding their work way around how he's going to get his money then, since it won't be through the revenue share agreement. I can't imagine Duke would let him free. I think that would be a really bad precedent to set that I don't think many schools in the country, save for Miami, would want them to do, because then it just I think leads to setting an example of, all right, well, let's just, you know what, let's not drag this. Let's give the guys what they want. So, like, there's no downside to anything, basically. None of these rules mean anything. If you start just like, oh, well, let's just forget about the rule in this case. That really sucks for Duke. That absolutely effing sucks for Duke. And they had a great year, ACC champs. He was a big part of why they were ACC champions. He had a really good year, and they had some excitement and had a lot of fun and some good wins. And now you're 1, 2, 3 weeks. I don't remember exactly when his return announcement was dropped, but your excitement building for next year, and he's coming back, and now just out of nowhere, just boom. Curveball. Sorry, guys. Darian Mensah, when he wrote that Instagram post about how special the year was and all that, and coming back and how great it would be, that was before Miami called. And now he still means those things, but he's going to be leaving instead of coming back for another year. So sorry. By the way, good luck getting a quarterback in the next 9 hours that hasn't maybe jumped in the portal already.
Yeah, because all of a sudden, I don't know what their quarterback room looks like. Not really interested in that. Should be, but you wonder now, to who do they go raid? Who do they go get? Well, it's a never-ending musical chairs.
So if you want the best available list of quarterbacks, let me pull that up for you right now. And I'm scrolling.
Dude, this is some BS,
Whoa.
though. Like, this really is some BS to have a guy signed, announced, and seemingly everything taken care of, and with 6 hours to go. And I know the story came out earlier today, but less than 24 hours to go, less than a full day to go, and the final day of being able to go and get guys into the portal. Now, granted, there are quarterbacks that are in the portal. You're going to read that list here in a second. But they have no forewarning whatsoever. They've had weeks to go and try to go pull their own quarterback. Not that I'm advocating for that, but let's just be real about what it is. And they didn't do that because they had a deal with Darian Mensah, who apparently loved it there, but just not enough to not leave for Miami the moment that Miami called. So I understand it, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Mensah's an idiot for wanting to go to Miami, because I think a lot of guys, and especially when you see what the apparent offer was, like I don't think you can confirm anything that's been put out there, but there is a guy from Barstool, Liam Blutman, who had a lot of like the coaching carousel tidbits that seemed to be coming from a pretty good source. And so he was somebody that got a lot of attention for having some scoops throughout the coaching carousel process. He put out there a little while ago what the offer is from Miami, and it's like insane stuff. So, I mean, from his standpoint, you can understand it, because I don't think he's worried about Duke long-term or anything. He's worried about Darian Mensah. But the fact that you can even do this and you can pull the rug like this, I just think is utter BS, man. And I'm not even blaming him or Miami specifically, even though they're the focus of the story. The fact that this sport allows this to even happen in some way is just not good. It's not good for the sport.
I 100% agree with you. But the portal's still open.
It is. No, it is. But he signed a contract.
Yeah, I know. I get it. And to wait to the very end where you don't give Duke a chance to react, I'm sure they're burning up the phones looking for somebody else who may not have yet signed an NIL deal, and they might be firing away trying to get that guy to leave who he's already committed to play elsewhere.
And I will say this. We need to make sure there's market share and there's NIL, two different things. Because market share is for the media rights and all that other stuff. NIL can come from a third party. But here are the quarterbacks. Walker Eggett, who was at San Jose State last year, is the 240th ranked player in the portal, according to On3.com. Parker Navarro, who we'll talk about in a second, who needs to get a waiver for his 7th year. Now, that would probably be ideal for them. Nico Marchiol from West Virginia, which probably is like that's probably in the realm of somebody they're going to go
that's
get,
such a
but
downgrade, man.
It's a ridiculous downgrade. But, when you've got best Austin Novosad, who is leaving Oregon, he doesn't have a team yet. And then after that, you get in the weeds, real weeds, because – if you're talking about guys who have starting experience that could come to Duke right now, it pretty much is Walker Eggett, Parker Navarro, if he gets the waiver, and Nico Marchiol. But outside of that, you are done with guys who have played.
There's still 6 or 7 hours left in the portal, closing, and now you might get a couple of names that jump in.
Do y'all want to know the rumor that I just mentioned about what Darian Mensah could be receiving, or is that too non-journalistic that we don't want to spread wild rumors?
Just throw it out there.
Okay, so this is the rumor. This is, again, from Liam Blutman from Barstool, who during the coaching carousel process, he very clearly, I don't know his total background, but I think his father's like an agent. And so he does, you can see where there are some clear connections. He's not just a guy that's totally disconnected and he's just randomly throwing stuff out there. Now, I don't know what his track record as far as accuracy goes is versus what he's put out there, but here's just what he's saying. He's been right enough to, I feel like it's worth mentioning. Here's what he's saying. Miami's supposed desperation move for Mensah. Buy out his Duke contract and terminate it. Pay around $10 million total to make it happen. Country club housing, an Adidas deal and possible campaign ? And supposedly his sister gets a full ride plus NIL. She's currently a soccer player at Oregon. So that is the rumor that he had out there. I don't know how in the world that could possibly pay off for Miami. That just seems like a bridge too far to ever recoup. And I don't think he's a Carson Beck level player, but I don't know.
He's pretty good. Yeah.
He's pretty good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I mean, wasn't he the highest NIL guy last year as a quarterback?
I think for a second he was. I don't know if he was by the end of it. I mean, look, he helped Duke win an ACC title, so I'm definitely not going to try to downplay how good he is. But I just don't know how you recoup your money unless you make another run to the playoff. And if you feel like you can do that with him, and hey, Duke wasn't far from it themselves, then go for it. But that's just a total rumor we're throwing out there. But would you be surprised if that was all true?
No, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Yeah. And remember this, Miami, because Florida State and Clemson bravely challenged the rules to try and get themselves more money, has $32 million that at the beginning of this year they didn't know that they were going to have.
Miami, yes.
Yeah, Miami because has all the money, $32 million now because of the payouts and all of that. So if you're just looking at this as well, we thought we were going to have 24. Now we have 32. What the hell? Let's do it.
Yeah, Thamel, and we're not going to just keep updating every little thing, but he did have another little mention. He said, for Mensah, Miami looms the early favorite, but there's also Tennessee and Ole Miss. So if he jumps in the portal, if you're Mensah, would you not be stupid? If you're going to do it at this point, you're just going to be the villain here at the end, in some people's eyes at least. Why not say, yeah, I am getting the portal, and yeah, that's Miami's offer. So Josh Heupel, Pete Golding, what do you got for me? At least throw it out there.
How bad do you want it?
Yeah, how bad do you need a quarterback? Because now I'm out there, pal. So that offer that I just read from Miami that's alleged, I don't think it would surprise if that was true. And they do have a lot more money to play around with thanks to that new ACC agreement. But if you really want to drive up the price even further and see how crazy we can get, then yeah, let Tennessee and Ole Miss have a crack at him in the next few hours as well. I guess technically he's in the portal. He doesn't have a deadline tonight. It was just a deadline to get in there. So yeah, let's see what you guys have over the weekend to offer me, or maybe the Miami deal, especially the way we read it, seems like a no-brainer. But hey, $10 million. Ole Miss, you got 12. Tennessee, you got 14. You want to throw at me? I'm at least going to answer the phone call. So the fact that Thamel mentions those as well just reminds me, yeah, he could technically still play the field some more if he's going to go ahead and get in there.
If he's looking at somebody else, he'll look at somebody else.
Right.
Samiris 11, I don't know if I said that name right. He's been in the chat with us quite a bit of late. he was in the chat room mentioning about Mensa and his sister and the buyout and all the same numbers from just a few minutes ago. I didn't get to see that quite in time. And also his sister's a soccer player. She's being offered an NIL deal. Somebody made a point about this when it comes to just the way college athletics has been. Crazy how 20 players went to different teams today, and none were in the portal beforehand. Tampering is out of control. Smoky, the athletes will eventually need to trademark themselves, like Michael Jordan or Dale Earnhardt, the late Dale Earnhardt, and hold their own license to sell their own NIL.
Wow, I mean that's probably
more. I went JUCO.
That's probably where it could eventually go. I mean, it's frightening to think that. And not frightening like I'm scared about it, but it's just like, oh my God, where are we going with this whole thing? And yeah, that I'm sure. I mean, if you're thinking about it, somebody else is thinking about it, and I'm sure that there's going to be some unicorn that tries to be the example of that. It's an interesting thought. And go ahead.
No, and remember when the portal became where everyone goes, well, coaches can leave whenever they want and go wherever they want, but all of them have a buyout.
Well, apparently so does Darian.
That's the thing. And so head coaches don't break contracts and get away with it. Head coaches that leave early, like we're talking about, have to pay a buyout. And maybe that's what Miami's going to help Darian Mensa do. There was one other question. I'm starting to embrace the player movement to avoid the old man shaking his fist at the cloud. It's becoming the most interesting part of college football. And one more note, this is about presidents, school presidents. I may have lost it. I'll go back to that about what school presidents were doing for the last 3 or 4 decades.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an interesting thought about the NIL piece that I was talking about, and that's thanks for passing that thought along, and thanks for, I guess, apparently being with us the last few days, Samarius. But if you do like seeing people flip out, then yeah, this is the sport for you right now. And I don't think as energetic as we may be in talking about this, or like impassioned as it's like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I'm still going to be talking about this same sport in 30 minutes and 2 hours from now and 2 days from now and all of that. But as far as it being the best version of itself, I think it's very far from that at this point in time. I don't think it's good that guys can just literally sign and agree to $4 million deals and revenue share agreements, and then at the last moment jump in the portal and screw over their previous school who did nothing but the things the way they were supposed to be able to do them. I just don't think it's good and smart business for the sport. So it's not like being scared of evolution. I mean, that was the people that were like, don't pay the players. What are we doing? We can't pay the players. It's like, guys, it's illegal to not pay the players, but college football, that to me was old man shaking his fist at the cloud. It's like, okay, that's just not being cognizant of like reality and the way the system was so corrupt for so long. I think now when you get to a point where it might be old people, but you're going, you shouldn't be able to break contracts at the final hour and flip to a school within your conference and screw over your old, like, that's just common sense. Like, that's just not good business in any industry to be able to do stuff like that. But there is a love of the chaos as well. And if you love the chaos, then yeah, this is absolutely the sport with the most of it right now.
What's Dylan Raiola thinking?
Nothing.
You think he would have been someone I know.
He could have been at Miami yesterday if he wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have been at Miami this whole time. So I don't think Dylan Raiola is thinking anything. I think he has a plan. I think his plan was to go back up Dante Moore and get better at Oregon.
And more
left
conundrum. Kids aren't wrecking cars anymore because they're riding in the back of a limo.
Hey,
I mean, we're not far from somebody just pulling up to practice in the back of a Maybach with a driver. I mean, at this point, with some of the money that's being thrown around, but yeah, it's a wild place to be in as a sport. And I mean, I will thank Miami for this. I mean, they were one of the poster children for trying to bend the rules in the very beginning with old John Ruiz Life Wallet guy. I remember when he was like the Cody Campbell early on of the named guy, and I said at the very beginning, it's like, I don't want to know these people. I don't want to know that John Ruiz exists. I want him to be unnamed booster guy. But we got to know him, and then that went a bit sideways for he and for Miami. And then guys like Cody Campbell came along, and the thing's been evolving, and you kind of just take it for what it's worth sometimes, and you go, all right, yeah, maybe I'm old man screaming at clouds about agents and this and that, but okay, this is the way that it is, and you evolve with it. But that doesn't mean you just openly accept everything, and you just go, well, this doesn't make any sense and it's against all of the rules that everybody agreed to, but I don't want to be the old man here, so let it go. It's like, no, at some point you got to say this is some BS and we got to push back on this and we got to get this thing under control. And this feels like a story much like the Damon Williams story where there's going to be some repercussions one way or the other with the whole sport.
Now, Darren Heidner said he couldn't comment. It doesn't mean he's involved in this, but we know his ties to Miami, and maybe he's already been contacted. Go Black 45. School presidents leave all the time, jump around all the time, with no buyouts most of the time. This causes a lot of issue with decisions that have to be made within college football. Coach, that was the go-to. Well, coaches get to leave anytime they want, but they're at least tied to a buyout. Mensa has a buyout. Damon Williams has a buyout. And schools, whoever does an NIL deal without a buyout anymore, if you haven't already started it, you're not really smart.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole part about, well, the coaches did it, that was like an unbeatable argument for a while. I don't know about going all the way up to school presidents. I mean, we're talking about different jobs, right? Like, not every job's the exact same. So, yeah, a school president can leave, but they're not it's not a situation where now, like, Duke's having to scramble to find a school president for next year. Like, the school president leaves, it's like, all right, well, let's go get our committee together. And, I mean, Baylor just had it happen 2 months ago. At the worst possible time as far as needing to make a coaching decision, their AD gets himself into personal life trouble, and they have no choice but to go their separate ways, although I think there was a pushing out the door that went on, but they, I guess because of the contract and the things involved, like they went their separate ways or whatever, and it put them in a pinch, and it did hurt them because they didn't have time then or the ability really to go fire a football coach, but they got to sit and they got their AD and everything's fine. I don't think this is apples to apples where, like, you have a specific time period to find a guy now. There wasn't a timer clicking on the 8. Well, we need the Duke AD to jump in the portal before tonight because otherwise he's not going to be available to us. Like, that's not the same thing that's happening here. I think that's where the difference lies is, yes, other jobs can move around and these guys are basically employees. And I do think that, well, the coaches do it things pretty much an unbeatable argument 99% of the time. But I don't know about, like, comparing it to every single job and saying that it's the exact same because because plenty of schools can operate through a timeline with an AD. You just agreed to this quarterback and there's a window. And so that's where I see a bit of a difference, but I understand where you're coming from. And believe me, am not on the side of those poor schools, okay? I want to make that very clear. I am absolutely more pro-player rights than I am those poor schools because those poor schools are the ones that created this whole situation, and they're the ones still creating this situation. So I don't feel sorry for them in any way. I just don't like it for Duke's sake that you can feel like you did all you were supposed to do. You did it on the up and up. You set yourself up for next year, and now you just get blindly and royally screwed at the last minute because of the way the system is. And
Duke plays at Miami next year, which I know doesn't really affect this in a lot of ways, but it, the fact that he's going to play against them potentially if they go there, if he does go there and not somewhere else, that adds like an element of intrigue to this. And Duke not being able to have any recourse because, again, this is the last day, and would they have gotten another guy maybe as good as Darian Mensah? No, but now they're not even going to get close. They're not even going to get close.
Based on who we know is out there right now. Yeah, they're not going to get anybody close to a Darian Mensah.
Yeah, they're not going to get close to it unless one of these guys that's out there that's a diamond in the rough that nobody knows about comes and plays for them. They're just not going to. And some of the guys out there, you're waiting on court cases or the NCAA to rule on eligibility. So Duke is going to be flying blind for a little while here. And, again, not begrudging Darian Mensah, but if you thought that there was a chance that you might want to do this, maybe you do it at the beginning. There's just better ways to do this, and that's clear. I am way more player rights. The schools got themselves in this mess, and they are reaping the penalties right now. But bottom line is, it's just got to be done better.
He didn't do anything illegal.
Yeah,
no, he didn't.
He did something that may be a little bit shady. Or maybe really shady, depends on how you look at this. He did not do anything illegal. The portal's open until midnight. I'm just trying to look at it that angle. If Miami can buy out whatever he would owe and he's allowed to leave and there's nothing you can do about it, I hate it for Duke because obviously they put a lot of commitment into him and then doubled down on it for what they thought was going to be next season.
Look, Darian Mensah wasn't at Duke to start his career anyways. He's already been in the portal and was their big get last year. And so
he had to leave somebody else to go to Duke.
He did, but I don't recall him at the very last second on the very last day going, hey, Tulane, I know we agreed to a new deal for next year, and I've already announced it, and I talked about how much I love this place, but Duke just called, and I'm sorry to screw you over for the portal, but I'm going to leave. Like, that's not the way that it went down. So I think to the point about, well, the coaches do it or the ADs or whatever, I don't think anybody's begrudging, or at least I'm not begrudging Darian Mensah for making another move, even though I would like to see him stay at Duke for just balance purposes. But I will enjoy watching him at Miami next year. And Pete Thamel, again, has already said Tennessee's out. So if there was a curveball there, it's not going to come from Knoxville. But I think the difference is when he did it and how they're attempting to do it after he signed a contract and how to not subvert, but
it's a good word.
Okay, subvert the actual contract itself to still find ways to give him money, to get him out of not being able to get the money he was going to get, and doing so at not the last possible second, but pretty close to the last possible segment. It's not illegal. It's super shady. Some people don't mind being shady because it gets you what you want ultimately. But I think that's the issue that people have is it's a timing thing more so than well, I can't believe you entered the portal and are leaving Duke. Well, we can believe anybody's leaving anywhere at any time. We got guys going from Ohio State to Bama and Bama to Texas and Texas to Incarnate Word and wherever. But it's just not at the very last second when everything seemed like it was signed, sealed, and delivered. I think that's where some of the frustration probably lies most.
All right. So there we are. Wow. We knew it, didn't even know that story existed a few hours ago, and all of a sudden, there it is. And about 40 minutes of discussion. I got to put one thing in. So Kim Coulter said, Craig always has the most sapient of comments.
Probably salient.
Okay, that one too. All right, so I started digging around. No, it's sapient.
I mean, it might be a typo.
Yeah, maybe it is. Well, I went to Merriam's. I had to because that was well above my pay grade. But Kim, thank you for doing that. And then sagacious. Sagacious is another word that was used. So thank you, Kim.
I think it's a compliment, right?
Yeah,
okay,
it is.
Okay,
It is.
Yeah.
Wise.
What the hell? Yeah.
Right. Well, Kim, you and I, man, appreciate that. Get your guns up.
Kim was blocked yesterday by himself and is back on the chat room, which is, I guess, good because he wanted to compliment.
Well, I'm glad that Kim's back. I want him to be along for the ride along with everybody else every day. And so, yeah, get your guns up and appreciate the kind comments there. But as we're talking about all this and we're throwing out some of the names, another name's off the board, Austin Novosad. As Pete Thamel. Pete Thamel's busy, man.
Yeah.
Pete's got the fingers just tapping away. But we're talking about what possibilities could Duke have in the portal, and the possibilities aren't that intriguing. But Austin Novosad was technically a man without a home, and has been in the portal for a couple of weeks at this point. And he is now heading to Bowling Green.
Eddie George.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Bowling Green for Austin Novosad. So there you go. So he is not an option for Duke if they, in fact, do need an option, which it looks like they will. But now we know where Novosad will be heading. And, yes, he will be a member of the Bowling Green Falcons in 2026.
All right, man. What a 40 minutes on what initially we did jump into Matera, and then it went back to Mensah, and, of course, that discussion as well. Let's take a break and kind of regroup. There's a hell of a player from Ole Miss, a defensive lineman, edge player who's available. What did Jordan Seaton do yesterday? Did he go visit anybody? Plus a couple of others. Paul brought up Ohio quarterback Parker Navarro, who still has to wait on whether or not he has another year of eligibility. And FSU had a couple of brohams, right? Brothers that are headed back to Tallahassee with big money. And then Mark Harlan, the AD at Utah, said, what? We'll do that. That's next. We do appreciate you so much. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowT.com. 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. And let's just talk about energy. You're lethargic. You don't feel like that it's not there. You can wake up in the morning. I have a bottle of water, and I put amino energy in it. It's got a little caffeine in it. It kind of gets me going in the morning. You might not need, that may not be enough for you. You might just not have the energy that you normally have, and you're not getting your work done. You're not very productive. So how come you wouldn't want to know it might be your low T? 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues. Upper 30s, early 40s, it starts to happen. It's part of father time. Contact pettycliniclowt.com and they will help you out. They will set you up with an appointment to give your blood, or you have your blood drawn. They'll get the results, look at your T level, and if it's too low, Dr. Kent Petty can give you and put you in a program so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be with pettycliniclowt.com.
That's my go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's time to start something new at Allen Samuels. Drive in with huge savings on all of our Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. From a trail-conquering Jeep Grand Cherokee, towing in style with a Ram Heavy Duty, or cruising the city in a sporty and luxurious Ram 1500, we've got the perfect ride for you. Stop by Allen Samuels in Waco, where we make car buying easy.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Joint pain? How long do you got? I'm talking about my back, my elbow, and my shoulder. 24 years in the majors.
Roger the Rocket Clemens dominated the game, but even legends feel wear and tear.
I put my body through a lot for baseball. I didn't want more surgeries.
QC Kinetics regenerative treatments use your body's natural healing properties to help restore joints without surgery. And the results?
Pain is gone, I'm back, thanks to QC Kinetics.
Schedule your free consultation today. Better starts here.
Probably go another 3 innings.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
5 Sports continues in more of college football. We'll have, in about an hour, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. The Cowboys, of course, looking for a defensive coordinator, the NFL playoffs in the next round this weekend. And then also Max Olson will join us in about 10 or 12 minutes. We'll get Max's ideas and thoughts about Darian Mensah and what's happening there. But a really good player from Ole Miss, of course, they've brought in a bunch and they've lost a lot. LSU, all these teams. Princeville, Uman
Milan.
It's Uman Mielen is how you say his name. I promise you that. I looked over it. He is entering the portal. Big, tall, lanky, angular player that enters the portal and somebody that's very disruptive on the defensive line.
Well, Ole Miss has had several guys enter the portal these last couple of days, and it is reportedly because the NIL deals for the new additions were leaked, and some of the current roster players got mad about that because they are making less money.
I saw that report. Has that been confirmed?
Not yet, but it kind of I don't think it's not been denied yet either. And so the thought is that Lane Kiffin threw a grenade in there to maybe get some of the guys out that weren't out yet. So
Lane gets blamed.
We'll
for too
see
many
if they
things.
go to LSU or not.
Okay.
I mean, if that report's true or it's not, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Lane Kiffin was writing that report and sending that out to at least plant the seeds of that being true. Now, if it's true, then I apologize to Lane Kiffin. But, yeah, if it's a little bit overblown or just fabricated, then it would not surprise me at all if the call was coming from Baton Rouge originally to say that and stir things up. But either way, if it is true, that's pretty much a bad look for Pete Golding that you can't really spin, especially with a guy like Uma Mielen, who is a very good player and was a big-time playmaker for Ole Miss. So, yeah, that's a loss for them, and I do want to see more of the reporting on that story and just, in fact, whether that is true or not, because that's a pretty big mistake or misstep by this new Ole Miss front office if that's the case. And you're going to have stuff like that happen. I'm surprised we haven't had more incidents like that actually happen of people getting upset. Now, sometimes it probably does occur, and then they handle it in-house, and we don't hear too much about it. But in this case, Ole Miss in a pretty bright light right now. Yeah, certainly if they're going to start losing some name guys, and Uma Mielen is one of them, and it's due to bringing in newcomers and giving them better deals, then, yeah, there's going to be some backlash to that, and there's going to be some collateral damage to that, and I guess we're seeing some of that. Or if it's not that, then I'd be curious to know what the reasoning is, but that would make a lot of sense because you would think Ole Miss would have done everything to try to keep this guy if possible. So we'll see where he goes. But yeah, immediately you look at LSU and you say, well, that would make a lot of sense. Yeah, if he ended up there for sure.
Well, he's in the portal, and so there's another one. Jordan Seaton entered the portal a couple of days ago, and he visited Starkville, Mississippi. Visited Mississippi State. Jeff Levy, the head coach, and more. Phil Lodeholt, longtime offensive line coach, was his first offensive line coach at Colorado, and he's one of the top-rated, you can see that, number 4 player, depending on which site, but one of the top 5 players in the portal at this particular time.
Yeah, Mississippi State would be an interesting spot for him to land, but look, Phil Lodeholt has that connection. Of all the places he could visit first, Mississippi State was just kind of surprising to me. And I'm very curious. Jordan Seaton seems to cut it like everybody's saying, well, Texas and Oregon, everybody's working on getting a visit from this guy. Everybody's working on it. They're just kind of assuming he does kind of cut his own path or dance to the beat of his own drummer. So Mississippi State, look, it's an SEC program. They're not the best SEC program, but there's a connection there, and he went to see if he could, live in Starkville, I guess.
I mean, he does have more visits coming up, including Miami this weekend. So that's been put out there that he will be visiting.
He can block for Darian Mensah. They can talk about it, right?
They can all commit together and sign their new deals together. But he is apparently visiting Miami this weekend, and I know there will be other visits. But for Mississippi State, probably not a team you would have picked if you had said, hey, pick 10 schools he might end up at. Maybe you would have if you knew the relationship with Phil Lodeholt, and you go like, oh, no, they were pretty tight. Like that would be good. Either way, the fact that they did get the visit is a good deal for Mississippi State. I don't think it probably changes the odds in their favor to land him, but it certainly gives you better opportunity than you had without him coming to visit Starkville. So the fact that he did that and so quickly after jumping the portal is good for them, and we'll see if they can pull off the major upset, because it would be a major upset, connections or not, for him to end up in Starkville after leaving Boulder. But yes, Texas is also involved among others, and he is going to be very highly paid, one of the most highly paid non-quarterbacks in the entire country next year, you would think, and he's going to have no shortage of suitors. But good for the Bulldogs to at least get him on campus.
Yeah, you're right. One of the highest paid non-quarterbacks, like the Cam Colemans and others that are a part of it. And there's not a school in America that would not want him at left tackle, and they already have like a badass left tackle that's an All-American candidate or is coming back after being honored very highly. Parker Navarro, the quarterback at Ohio. I get screwed up with Navarro. Let me tell you why I do that, because there's Navarro Junior College, used to be Navarro Junior College in Corsicana. I did a lot of their games. That's how they say it. It is Parker Navarro.
Yes.
From Ohio. And there were thoughts, Paul, in our text link yesterday evening, whatever, you go, Miami, I guarantee it. Really? Now, I don't know if that happens now.
No, yeah, I know. He's got to get an extra year of eligibility. Also, Smokey, the Texas way to say words and the real way to say words should never be a thing that crosses your mind. We have our own nomenclature.
Hey, I'm going to tell you right
things
now,
down here.
I'm not born and raised Texan.
No, but like you've been here most of your life. And so there are things we pick up, and there are lots of towns that people come in and ask us what this is. Look, we have a street here. There's a county called Bosque, but I've never heard anybody from outside of this area.
Yeah, they say
in Texas.
Bosque.
They all say, even if you're from Dallas or Austin, they say Bosque. So it's hard. But Parker Navarro has huge numbers, but he's going to need a 7th year of eligibility. And he's got a couple of injury years and all of this on his belt. I don't know what will happen, but I would assume that if Trinidad Chambliss and Parker Navarro get, if whoever gets it, if they both get it, then, fine. If not, then I guess they're off to the next level, but he still has to get a 7th year of eligibility.
All right, Craig, any thoughts on him? And then we have one more, and then we're going to get to a break. Max Olson joins us at 4.
No, I mean, let me know when he gets his year of eligibility, and then I'll have something to say about it. But as it stands right now, he's not eligible to go anywhere. So to me, he's an interesting kind of asterisk that's out there right now. But yeah, until he's actually full blown available to play, and I don't really have much to say about his possibilities.
That ruling earlier in the week, the Patterson ruling, was the same judge that had cleared Diego Pavia to have an extra year. Not this time. So you wonder if some judges started to do a little bit more research. It's still the letter of the law, but that group of those players, which we brought up a couple of days ago, were not allowed or not given an extra year of eligibility.
Yeah, I don't think it's generalized like that, where like, oh, he gave that, but he didn't give this. I think it's a case-by-case thing, and it's the arguments you have in front of you. I don't think it's, today I'm saying green light. Today I'm saying red light.
I saw a couple of attorneys that said, though, they were surprised because he did clear Pavia last year, that he probably wouldn't have still looked at it the same. But it is you're right. It was a different deal.
Yeah, it's not apples to apples, but I think if you're somebody who does not want to see guys just continuously sue for extra years that they maybe don't deserve, then that was a good ruling. And I am somebody who has said I love college football. I do love the craziness, although I don't love guys flipping at the 11th hour who have signed contracts. I just think that Duke should be able to go to bed at night and feel like we did what we did. We did it by the letter of the law, and we got our guy, and boom, that's all they should have to be able to be worried about. But I am very adamant against 7th, 8th, 9th. Like, let's try to play college football for life. That to me is not college football. So, yeah, we'll see how some of these other lawsuits go. But I think for the camp that I'm in, that yesterday was a good ruling in that direction.
When we come back, Max Olson, ESPN, what is he hearing about Darian Mensah, and what does that mean, and more? And the portal closes tonight at midnight, and this is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. If you are in this area, and you remember or not, they're having a special, and by the way, it's not that, less than a month away, Valentine's Day. Celebrate Valentine's Day, an elevated private event experience with exclusive enhancements included at no additional cost. Floating candles, red up light. Are you listening? Paying attention? Also, menu cards, rose petals, pink and red napkins, romantic jazz music, and also chocolate-covered strawberries. Book your February event by January 31st. Got a couple of weeks to receive these Valentine's enhancement private events. The Baylor Club, where you can host luncheons, dinners, more, and a great place to have food, lunch, and dinner. They're about to release and unveil their newest menu additions and what they kept and what they brought in with great top chefs. It's the Baylor Club. General Manager Nick Colwell inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
At BK Ford, we step onto the field every day for our customers. Here, legends are born and glory is earned. The spirit of competition unites us all as we stand as one. It's more than a truck, it's a passion. Get ready for the thrill, the triumphs, and the unforgettable moments that only BK Ford can deliver. Are you ready to experience better? BK Ford.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
This is 365 Sports.
Max Olson, ESPN, Transfer Portal Alpha, wrote a story today, college football transfer portal trends, prices rising and all that. And then Max, a new chapter with the Darian Mensah story from Duke. What can you tell us what you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's been pretty clear here in the last few days is that Duke was pretty desperate and trying to find a proven quarterback and willing to pay big money to go get one. Obviously, it was reported the kind of offer they were making to Ty Simpson to come out of the draft and transfer there. They've been going after a few different quarterbacks here in the past few days, and it looks like now they're targeting Darian Mensah, and Darian Mensah is requested to enter the transfer portal. I think that there are some similarities to the Damon Williams Jr. situation at Washington. I mean, there's a lot of details that still have to be worked out here, and I don't have the contract in front of me, obviously, but he did re-sign with Duke, or already had a 2-year deal with the program, was going to be paid up to $4 million this year. So I think Duke contends that they maintain his exclusive NIL rights, and there could be some challenges here in terms of his rev share and stuff like that. But yeah, it looks like we'll see when he officially pops up in the portal, but it looks like this is the one that Miami's going out and getting. And obviously, after doing that with Carson Beck and Cam Ward last 2 years, it's not surprising. But certainly when you're recruiting guys that have already recommitted and re-signed in terms of coming back next year, it's a stunner at the deadline here. Obviously, puts Manny Diaz and Duke in a really bad position.
So, Max, I mean, there's no news on the mechanisms that Miami will use to get Darian Mensah out of this contract. But one would think, based on the reports out there of what the offer is, that they're going to have to go way above and beyond to get this all done, right?
In terms of price point?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure that if you're getting a guy to make a move like this, then you are talking about more than $5 million. I mean, if it's true, they're talking about like 6.5 with Ty Simpson. Like, it's probably some record-setting number like that. I haven't heard the specifics yet. And look, I'm sure Miami doesn't want this to come out right now. They've got their media day tomorrow for the national championship game. I'm sure they'd all love for this to not play out till Tuesday, but it's out there now. And like I said, because there's like contracts here, and one school is getting screwed over. Like Duke's not just going to like let this happen and say, okay, that sounds good. Obviously, we know Manny Diaz's history with Miami too. So this is a huge gut punch for that program. And just as we saw with Washington, like I would expect the school to try to fight back on this.
So we were talking about the quarterbacks that are still out there, Max, and Austin Novosad just committed to Bowling Green like in the last 20 minutes or so. So he's no longer available. It's pretty much slim pickings right now, isn't it? Is there any sort of like unforeseen name that Duke could pivot to, or are they just kind of left with what's right there right now as we have only a few hours remaining before the portal closes?
Yeah, agreed. It's pretty slim pickings right now. I think that the one like possibility I suppose you could wait for next week is that Miami and Indiana players will have a 5-day window, I believe, next week after the title game when they can go in the portal. So, if Miami's going to go through this, I would expect Emory Williams to go in the portal. Because Indiana brought in Josh Hoover, I think it's certainly possible Alberto Mendoza, Fernando's brother, will go in the portal. So I suppose you could try to go after one of those guys. Duke's backup quarterback, Henry Bellin, he went in the portal earlier this month, just committed to Missouri State yesterday. So hasn't signed, so maybe they'll try to get him back. But yeah, certainly far from ideal to be waiting at the last day here and everybody else is signed and moving in elsewhere.
Is Seton going to get Cam Coleman money?
Yes, I think so.
Yep.
I've talked to people who say that it's like name your price if you're Jordan Seton. I think it's certainly you're talking about the $3 million plus range. And part of that is just, it is, I can't really point to much precedent, guys, in terms of projected first round pick type of player going in the portal ahead of his junior season. You just don't have that kind of premium player who's not draft eligible going in the portal and making a move. So yeah, he's in the top 5 of our rankings right now. We got to figure out where to put Darian Mintz in our rankings now, I suppose. But Jordan Seton, I believe Miami's going to be his next visit. Again, that's another huge check for Miami if they want to pull that off.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing with Miami. A buddy of mine from college was texting me like, how desperate are they? And it's like, well, look, you're playing for a national title, you might win it, and then you don't have a quarterback for next year, and now you've fed a fan base that has been starving for years. You can't just be like, well, that's it on the food. So Miami's going to feed this beast like crazy for a little while, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. It's I think when you get this close, and we'll see if they win it or not. But yeah, I mean, I think certainly Miami I think they've been as probably you could say as good as anybody over the last 2-3 years in terms of being really aggressive at recruiting the portal, at trying to address all of their needs and flaws by bringing in quality transfers. And this year, the difference wasn't just Carson Beck. It was that they went and rebuilt their secondary in the portal, and those guys played a lot better than what they had a year ago. And so, you saw C.J. Daniels make an impact. You see Keelan Murray make an impact. Charmar Brown at running back. Like, these guys are pretty good at going out and finding players that fit them and make them better. And so, yeah, I would expect, especially when Miami season's finally over here, I would expect them to continue to make some moves.
So, Max, early on in the portal, a lot of teams making their moves, as you talked about there, and Texas was a little slow to start. You saw some crowing starting to begin, and people wondering, all right, when's Sark going to hit the launch button here? And then in the last few days, Cam Coleman, Hollywood Smothers, Zion Williams, Rasheem Biles, Melvin Siani, they definitely hit the launch button. How impressed are you with what they've put together over the last few days down in Austin?
Yeah, a lot of big moves. I think that Cam Coleman battle, certainly no guarantees in terms of how that one was going to play out when you've got Texas and Texas Tech and A&M and Alabama all battling for that one. So impressive to win that and to be able to pair him with Ryan Wingo. To flip Hollywood Smothers and Keith Relief Brown is quite a combo. you're right to acknowledge it. Like, there was definitely some concern, I think, from Texas fans when you see the names that are going in the portal and you're like, wait, why are they not paying that guy? Like, why would that guy go somewhere else? And, so when that happens and you free up that money, like, you got to go win those battles and get those elite players. And they've done that. Melvin Taini yesterday from Wake Forest, a quality starter at left tackle there. And they try to kind of rebuild the line. I don't think they're going to be in the Jordan Seaton battle. Like, I think that was kind of expected before Seaton went in the portal, but I don't think now that they picked up the tackle from Wake Forest, I think they'll be out of that. But it's a strong one there, and certainly we'll put Texas right back in that conversation. I think when people start doing like the way too early rankings here next week, I imagine Texas will probably be back in the top 5.
Did they do enough along the offensive line as well, other than the Wake Forest guy?
I think they're still working on that to some extent. I think getting Trevor Gooseby back for his keeping him out of the draft for junior or senior, I can't remember, but to keep him out of the draft, I thought was a big get there at left tackle. I think you needed to go get a tackle, and I think they lost some depth along the offensive line. So interested to see they picked up a backup from A&M yesterday, I believe. I'm sure they're still trying to recruit and find some bodies there, but they've really not done that. I remember talking with Steve Sarkisian ahead of the Peach Bowl last year, and I think they felt like, we're about to lose all these guys to the NFL. We feel like it's going to be next man up. We don't look to the portal for this. And, I think they probably missed on some opportunities there a year ago, and they're trying to rectify that now.
As somebody who watched him play quite a bit there in Lincoln, your thoughts on Dylan Raiola and the fit at Oregon, but also knowing that, hey, Dante Moore's coming back, and I'm sure they had to have talked about that, but he's not going to just go grab a starting job. He's content sitting back for a year, it looks like, and playing behind Moore and developing. What do you think about that decision?
Yeah, I think when Oregon was recruiting Dylan Raiola, like, I think it was pretty well known to the sources we were talking with that there's a very real chance that Dante Moore is coming back. And I think that was, it's pretty telling that there was, as far as we know, that's the only school that Dylan Raiola visited. I think he was pretty laser focused on being the guy at Oregon, even if it meant sitting out and waiting a year. And I don't think he has to sit out a year because of the injury. Like, I think that, ultimately this will be beneficial for him in terms of his continued development there. You got to remember too, like, for as prolific as these guys have been, Bo Nix and Dante Moore were not in great places in their career when they got to Oregon. Dylan Gabriel's coming off a really good season in Oklahoma, but had a rough year before that. So, like, I think these guys that have come up there have been put in really good positions to be successful, surrounded by great supporting cast, and really, like, kind of get their confidence back and play at a super high level. And I'm sure that's kind of where he feels like he is at this point in his career.
Max, a week ago, I didn't ask you because DJ Lagway had committed to Baylor, then took the trip to Oxford, which was apparently planned. That's the story. We're here a week plus another day later. Every indication is he's locked in. Even some players have committed because of him. What are you hearing?
I think that I don't think that the Ole Miss threat is as serious today as it was a week ago. I would still expect DJ Lagway to transfer to Baylor at this point. It is interesting though. A lot of times we sort of just cross these guys off a list and move on to the next one and stuff. But you do have to kind of check and see, are they signed? Are they going to keep taking visits? And I think part of that was just there was pretty strong demand for DJ Lagway, and he was getting strong offers from schools like Virginia and Stanford. And certainly, Ole Miss was just in a tricky spot there in terms of, is Trinidad Chambliss coming back or not? He gets it denied, but we're still got to go recruit some guys, but he's our guy. Like, it's a tough spot for Ole Miss there to figure out what to do. I think ultimately they're good with Deuce Knight. They're good with, hoping to get Trinidad Chambliss back, as nobody knows really how questionable or realistic that is. But yeah, I think at this point, after that threat, I think Baylor's in better shape now, unless something just happened in the last 12 minutes we were talking, which is always possible.
Oh, crap. Duke does need a quarterback now.
Craig. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, it's just dawned on me while we were talking here.
Oh, my God. The message boards are going to go nuts because of that. But, yeah, he you're right.
That's like Talladega. It's like, don't put that evil on me, Craig.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, Max, for the quarterbacks, the number one, obviously, the Seaton and Cam Coleman, whatever. You could sign a top 100 or 300 quarterback And pretty much by the end of his career, on average, or more than half of them are going to end up probably being at 3 different schools before they're done?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, I think that's just where we're at now. And I was looking at this as I was putting the two together for that ran this morning. But like, yeah, you go look at it, the top 50 quarterback recruits in ESPN's rankings in 2020 to 23, we're down to like 5 out of 50 in each of those classes, or 4 to 7 out of 50 in each of those classes that haven't transferred during their careers. And so that's just the norm now. And I think a few years ago, it was like, if you didn't play within your first 2 years, you were probably going to transfer during your career. And now, guys, I think we've seen 8 quarterbacks that were in the ESPN 300 who were true freshmen this year already move on to their next school. So, I think 13 out of 17 in the 24 class. So it's just the norm now. And I'm sure money's part of it. I'm sure opportunity is a big part of it, but like, I think it's just kind of baked into the quarterback experience now. And it probably makes some of these coaches question, like, why would I spend big money on a high school recruit when there's just always going to be guys in the portal, and it's just going to be a fight, just like Tulane had with Darian Mensa. Like, it's going to be a fight to keep these guys once they get good.
So Max, I read your piece, and it's very good and in depth, and answers a lot of the questions about like the numbers and everything, and kind of the patterns and the overpaying that's gone on to a great degree. But just kind of absorbing it all as you look here at the end. I'm sure you're going to take a big deep breath at like midnight tonight. But how many guys are still out there at this point? Like, what does that look like as far as the players that have chosen to go in the portal, but weren't all of these guys we talked about who are logically going to end up somewhere else? Is there a bit of a mess of guys without a home right now?
Yeah, there definitely is. And, that's always been you've always heard that talking point, like every year in the portal era of like, oh man, all these guys are going in the portal and not going anywhere. I think in the past, that's like been very like greatly exaggerated. Like, I did the homework, and like last year, 97% of the Power 4 scholarship guys that go in the portal ended up playing somewhere. Now, it may be a junior college, it may be FCS, it may be moving down, but these guys tend to end up somewhere. I'm personally like, I'm pretty concerned about where we're at from that standpoint right now. As this window comes to a close, you're talking about between like 1,100 and 1,200 FBS scholarship players that are unsigned in the portal. Now, some of those guys are committed and just haven't signed paperwork yet. Like a certain quarterback that we are all waiting on. But, in a lot of cases, you're like, wow, what's going to happen to those guys? Because when I talk to agents, the agents are like, yep, we're pretty much done. Like, just a couple guys left. Same with the GMs. They only have a couple spots left. They're mostly done with this stuff. And so, because there's no spring transfer portal, like, we just don't really know how this is going to go here the rest of the year. Like, how will those guys find FBS opportunities? Will all of them have to just go take G5 or FCS or D2 offers right now and just find somewhere to go? Like, obviously they're running out of time, and, you hate it for the players who, just either kind of slip through the cracks because there's like, 6,000 of these guys that are all available at once, or maybe they got pushed out by their previous school, or maybe they got bad advice from an agent about the kind of money or the kind of schools that they'd be able to go to, if they went in the portal. And you just hope that those guys get, can figure something out here, because yeah, we're talking about more than 1/3 of these players that have gone in here in the past month. Like, that many going unsigned right now, that's a bit of a red flag.
Yeah, it is. And I know that back when there was just high school football recruiting, the Dallas Morning News and others started to go, okay, here's who signed the class of 2012. And then they would look at it 5 years later on exactly where they were based on where they were rated. In the transfer portal, how many teams actually improve their roster from the number of players who leave with the number of players who are incoming? Or is it just moving different chairs around the deck of the Titanic?
Yeah, I think that there's certainly, there's certainly a lot of difference makers in the portal, and there are this year, experience, multi-year starters, stuff like that. But I think in a lot of cases, you are just sort of trading backups for backups. And I think that the money component of this has made that just a lot more volatile. I think there are a lot of programs that, they're developmental guys or young guys in their program or reserves who've played a little bit, who they'd like to keep, but the player wants some more money. They can get it more elsewhere, and you just kind of can't afford to keep them. And so I think that is shaking things up a lot here. And I wrote about, even for the programs at the very top, like, when you're seeing some of these playoff contenders lose 20 plus players to the portal right now, some of that is like they're pushing those guys out, and some of that is like, man, we didn't want to lose this guy, but we've got to pay other guys. And so, it is, I think you're just going to see a ton of turnover. And then the thing I'm seeing right now that, again, like it's a little bit concerning to see is just like you're seeing names pop up that are in the portal for the third time in 3 years. And I think there's going to be a lot of that of guys, and those guys don't have their degrees either. So it's like that is concerning to see, these guys that are just repeatedly transferring, still like not finding what they're looking for, and not getting closer to getting a degree right now.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time. I know it's crazy. Max Olson, ESPN, the portal closes tonight. That means you have to enter it, Brandon. That's of the merit. You have to enter it. That doesn't mean you have to be committed to somebody by the end of the day today at midnight. So there we are with that. Back with a couple of other stories in college football. Somebody in the chat just said Malachi Nelson to Syracuse. Is that what you had?
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. So thank you to whoever mentioned that in chat. Perfect timing. Malachi Nelson, who we talked about just a second ago with Max about these quarterbacks ending up going on these journeys of almost what feels like an average of 3 schools. Well, this is school 4 for Malachi Nelson. After USC and Boise State and UTEP, Malachi Nelson has now committed to Fran Brown at Syracuse. So the former ESPN #1 overall recruit from 2023, as Pete Thamel described in his tweet, putting that out there just a second ago, he is going to go try to be the starting quarterback for the Syracuse Orange. And it did lead me, just out of curiosity, and I think we have time here. I know we want to get to the Utah AD probably before Mickey, because I don't know what time we'll have. But just out of curiosity, you'd like to see where Malachi Nelson was in the rankings looking back on them as far as quarterbacks and everything. So as far as the top recruit in California, we'll start there. He was the #2 overall recruit in California back in 2023. Any guess at all of who the #1 guy would have been in 2023? I doubt y'all.
Arch.
In California?
Oh, California. I'm sorry. And he might have been 20.
So the answer is Nico Iamaleava was the #1 recruit in California the year that Malachi Nelson was #2. And so he's obviously had his own moving around a little bit here. So that was who was in front of him. Now, as far as the top quarterbacks go, the #1 quarterback in 2023, Malachi Nelson was #5 overall. The #1 quarterback was Arch Manning that year. The #2 quarterback was Nico Iamaleava. The #3 quarterback was Dante Moore, who's already moved around himself a little bit. And the #4 quarterback was Jackson Arnold, who is where's Jackson Arnold now?
He is at UNLV.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So he's on school 3. Nelson's on school 4. Moore's on school 2. Iamaleava's on school 2. And Arch is probably going to be the only one of the top 5 recruits that plays at a single place the entire time. And some of them have gone more than twice somewhere. In the case of #4, Jackson Arnold, and #5, Malachi Nelson. So, yeah, that's interesting. And then as far as the just top recruits in general from that particular year, let's see where he was. He was a little bit further down. He was the #11 overall recruit in that class. Arch was #1. Keon Keeley at Alabama, the edge rusher, was #2. Nico Iamaleava was #3. Dante Moore 4. Zachariah Branch to USC at that time, now at Georgia, was the #5 recruit. DJ Hicks at A&M. Caleb Downs at Alabama. Jackson Arnold was the 8th overall recruit. Francis Mauigoa at Miami. Caden Proctor at Alabama. And then you got to Malachi Nelson. So mixed bag. There's been some moving around. There's also been some guys who've just been great where they were.
Congrats also to Francis Mauigoa. He did not go anywhere else.
Yes.
He's going to be a top 15, 20 pick in the draft this year. I would not want to try to rush the passer on him. He is an absolute street fighter over there. So Arch Manning and Francis Mauigoa, congratulations.
Caleb Downs.
Caleb Downs.
He's
Alabama,
Georgia,
right? Yeah.
No, he went to Alabama and Ohio State. So, yeah.
I got to tell you something. Arch gets so much attention and earned a lot of it, #1 player and all that. And there were thoughts about that son of a gun has done it right. He's done it right. And obviously the tough start to the year, and he ended up having a monstrous year. And the hype will be just as large and loaded. and massive in the offseason entering 26. But he's done it right. He committed to a team. That doesn't mean if you leave, you're doing it wrong, but he committed to a team. He stayed at that school. He didn't get to play a lot, but just enough. He's there now, and he will never leave Texas, you would think. Maybe this is his last year in the NFL, whatever. He's done it right.
Well, he had the benefit of, a support system that understands the realities of where he was. And one of the things about Arch Manning was, obviously, he's a Manning and all of that. But it was very apparent to a lot of people who assessed him that this guy's really talented, but he has not played against other SEC talent at the school he's been playing at in New Orleans. He was playing in the parochial league, and so it wasn't, he was putting up these numbers, and they knew he was SEC good, but he knew he needed some time to practice against these guys, get better, learn the speed, and do that. And he had the luxury of being able to have the patience to do it financially and otherwise, but other guys don't, so that's why they can't. But I do think that you don't get better by moving all the time. I think for the most part, you don't get better by moving all the time. If you find a stable situation, go there, put your head down, get better. And then if you really just can't play after a couple years at that place, then you go. But I think development is still important.
Yeah, I think it is as well, and he clearly wanted to play for Steve Sarkisian and get developed by him. And I know why you've got to point out the part about, how well off he seems to be and financially secure, but he's financially secure in his own right. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't matter even what money his family had. He's got his own money that he earned himself, and just like a lot of these other quarterbacks can. But you're fair to like mention that part of it, because some other guys may be scrambling for a starting job because they need to pay the bills back home, more so than a guy like Arch may be able to do. But that also doesn't mean that every single guy who jumps in the portal more than once is also in need of money. There's plenty of guys, I would imagine, that are totally fine keeping the lights on back at home, but they jump in there because they're not making good decisions, or because they're not patient, or because they're being fed the wrong BS. And I'm sure there's been a lot of people trying to feed Arch stuff over the years, but his family and he had a plan outlined from the jump. They wanted to play at a school like Texas, and they wanted to be in Austin, and they wanted to play in the SEC, and they wanted to get developed by Sark, and they wanted to probably get paid well, and they're getting all of those things. So why look around and move? He's in a great situation,
Mm-hmm.
and he's had no need to play the game because he's in the perfect spot for him. But as you see for the rest of that quarterback class, it's been a very mixed bag of results. So I think of those players, he's the guy who's going to actually be from start to finish who you kind of projected him to be, where everybody else is sort of taking turns and twists and whatnot. He's been able to just kind of have a regular college career, including actually sitting back and not playing right away and having to be patient. So credit to him for that. And I think you saw that starting to pay off, especially towards the end of last year. And this time around, when the offseason hype train starts up, it will be deserved, much more so than it was a year ago when you were sort of projecting. Now you have something substantial, many starts, many moments, many throws, many decisions to look at and go like, this is the guy who we thought he was. And now you start the beat for the Heisman campaign and the number 1 overall pick. And now I think it actually has some meat on the bone versus last year when it was sort of wish casting in what we expect, because it's Arch, even though we haven't seen much. Like, now we have, and now you know that, he's got some talent, man. He really does.
I got to tell you, the thing that has stunned me the most about him, and it's still like even in the bowl game, because it's son of a gun can run.
Yeah.
And you heard that he could, because Eli surely couldn't run out of his own shadow. Arch was a guy, obviously Archie was somebody that moved around quite a bit because he was running for his life. And then, really Peyton couldn't run either, but it's unbelievable how he can run, and also being a big body, how he can run. So even if you get to him, it's hard to knock him down. A couple of notes from the chat. One is, first of all, with what Paul, you said. Paul is spot on. This is from Still Alive 365. College sports has made it too easy to quit. I get the money, but the life lesson of perseverance and resiliency is gone with the wind. Not everybody that leaves ends up having, doesn't work out. The part that I hear, which that's a note for your comment, is what connections, like Michael Irvin, Different era, I get it. Michael Irvin bleeds Miami Hurricanes football. It's a little annoying at times, but that's who Michael Irvin's always been. How many players are going to have the connection with an alma mater?
Well, we just had this conversation with Quinn Ewers.
Yes.
Like, we just had this talk about him saying that he could have gone off in the portal and made $5+ million a year ago, but he wanted to be a Texas Longhorn. He didn't want to be the guy that goes on Monday Night Football, and all of a sudden it's Quinn Ewers, Georgia Bulldogs. Like, he wanted to be a Longhorn, and so he sacrificed the money. And this is where I probably worry too much, or not worry too much, but I allow the outside voice of the guy on Twitter that I know is going to go, well, he had the luxury of blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, but he still had a choice to make. Regardless of what he had or didn't have already, he still had a choice to make, and he chose to be a Texas Longhorn and be a Texas Longhorn alone, and that's the same thing Arch is doing. And there are thousands of other guys that have chose to be 3 or 4 different things at this point. So, yeah, I'm with you that I think Arch is much better served having been patient, having had a little bit of a rough patch maybe at a time or two, but learning the lessons along the way and learning about loyalty and just sticking it out and being patient and then seeing the payoff for the hard work and all of those things. Yeah, I think that will serve him very well. And it also helps that I think that was instilled in him from his uncles, from his father and the family, his grandfather. They were going to make sure that was the case, and this wasn't going to be some sideshow where he's bouncing around for a starting job.
And I think that there's different tiers of these quarterbacks. There are guys who aren't in the right spot and then find the right spot, and that usually happens after a year. Like, okay, well, I went to USC. I don't really fit in here. I want to be back closer to home in Arizona, and that's kind of a personal thing. But also, I'm not sure if you're going to get better at the next place if it's not as good at developing you at that position. But there are the quarterbacks, the ones who are, if you're in a G5 and you have the opportunity to make life-changing money and move up, I mean, like, you're almost crazy not to. And most of the coaches think that and help their players. Talk to Jake Spavital about it when he came over here. He said, look, I would love to keep all these guys at Texas State, and maybe if I'd been able to, I would still be there. But I know the reality of the situation is you're offering $1 million. We can give you $38,000. Like, sorry, like, this is just how it is right now and where it is. And it's
life lessons be damned in that case.
Yeah, so it's like
you got to do what you got to do. Yeah,
you go learn the life lesson somewhere else, but because you've shown that, it also, all of this shows me that, recruiting rankings, and I'm not even knocking these guys, but they mean very little if you can't develop, if you can't do that. Because some guys, Malachi Nelson he was a 5-star guy, but he wasn't, because he was already as good as he was going to be. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you're as good as you're going to be when you're 18 years old. Sometimes you're as good as you're going to be when you're 25. And sometimes that happens at 30. Look, I'll tell you right now, one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch the last couple of years has been Sam Darnold, and he was really good at USC. He got picked high. He was in a bad situation. He found his way through the journey of going places, got coached up well, worked really hard. Now he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It wasn't linear. It wasn't, I was the first-round draft pick. I became a star. Boom, 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 boom. It was different. So everybody has different journeys, and that's on them. But I just hope that athletes are smart about it and making decisions on, this place is genuinely better for me, and it's not just a money grab.
Yeah, I mean, if it's $38,000 versus $1 million and you're probably not playing in the NFL, then you probably need to go ahead and make the move for just life purposes. But if you can withstand that temptation and it isn't that lopsided of a decision to have to make, then, yeah, there is something to be said for sticking it out, learning lessons. Arch is being able to do that, and there's other guys as well. So, yeah, I think that gets lost, unfortunately, and it gets lost in all the madness of chasing the money. And not to say that if we weren't in that same position, because, look, if some radio station or media entity said, hey, I'll offer you $1 million a year, I'd be like, hey, Corey, sorry, pal. Like, see you later. But I think there are a lot of these stories to the point of this whole thing where guys are chasing maybe a few extra dollars that are not making the best decision for themselves in the long run. And that's unfortunate, but that's the kind of environment that's been created. So luckily for Arch, he had a good support system around him. He didn't have to chase the bag. The bag came to him, and he knew his spot and knew where he could be developed, and he could be patient with it. And it's paying off for him, and it's going to pay off for Texas.
Yeah, no question. And let's see, RX in the chat wanted to remind us that we mentioned Archie and Eli and Peyton with Arch, but obviously Cooper, who was a wide receiver in high school, with Peyton was the quarterback. So he wasn't going to play quarterback when Peyton Manning was at the same school.
Cooper. That's
what
what
I
they
say.
call
Cooper. Yeah.
That's it. They say Cooper.
He had his career ended, by the way, of the spinal stenosis, where we've seen players get that and have ended their career. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com is around the corner. Mickey and the Cowboys looking for a defensive coordinator. Where is that? They don't do what they did with Matt Eberflus very often. They get attached to certain coaches, but they did. They moved on after 1 year. And now they're looking for his replacement. That and more with Mickey. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Ted Teague, CEO and General Manager. David Gray handles the entire group of men and women that are who you will talk to about buying a car, whether it's a pre-owned car like I did back in 2020 or a brand new car on the lot. And right now, the new year, brand new 2026 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab, $12,000 off MSRP, or choose 0% financing plus $7,500 off. 2025, the remaining 2025 Ram 1500s at Alan Samuels, best-selling, hardest-working trucks qualify for 3.9% financing plus 10% off MSRP, and even extra dealer discounts available on the truck that you choose. Alan Samuels also with a battle-ready 2025 Jeep Gladiator Rubicon, $12,000 off MSRP. There's one of those parked in the condo area and complex and parking lot where I live. It's a beautiful car, beautiful SUV, and $12,000 right now off MSRP. And the fully loaded 2025 Ram 3/4 ton limited, slashed by a whopping $14,000. Bold, aggressive, disappearing fast. Start the year with a brand new SUV, truck, or vehicle. It is Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
This is 365 Sports.
Yes, it is. IdealMRI.com, one of the title sponsors of this show. Don't ever forget, you get an MRI for never more than $497 or less every single time in a state-of-the-art imaging machine. And Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Mickey, thank you, sir, for your time. We appreciate it. Where are the Cowboys in the number of interviews for a defensive coordinator? How many do you think they'll still interview? Or are they closing in on that?
No, I don't think they're closing in on it, David. I think they've thrown out a big old net, and they're trying to, interview as many of these guys that are available now. But it's complicated because there's so many head coaching openings. Some of the guys that are already defensive coordinators are interviewing for head coaching jobs. And then on those staffs that they're already on, the guys that are like the next in line, they're not going to move any, because if their defensive coordinator leaves, they may be the one that gets to stay on their staff and get promoted. So they've interviewed a whole bunch of those pass game coordinators, right? Well, those guys are in line for the defensive coordinator's job if the defensive coordinator leaves. So a lot of this is all going to be dependent on if these guys, who gets head coaching jobs. So I think what the Cowboys have done so far is they've done these video interviews, and now they may start bringing some guys in, but I just think this is going to take a while. And I think a lot of the guys that are defensive coordinators are so slow playing it because they got to figure out which one is the best head coaching job that they might get.
Mickey, it's an interesting from a roster standpoint and a scheme standpoint where the Cowboys sit right now, because a position that was not a strength for a very long time, defensive tackle, is really the only thing on the defense that you wouldn't want to mess with, right? Anything else you could change. So as long as they have a scheme that fits those guys, Oso Odighizuwa, Kenny Clark, and Quinnen Williams, you're kind of good to go on a lot of different schemes that could come in. So that would really make this harder, because you told me they were doing a wholesale scheme change. There's nothing at linebacker or defensive back that would make me go, whoa. Are we sure we want to mess with that?
No, because they need linebackers and they need defensive backs. Mm-hmm. So, there's no predetermined schemes that's going to take care of those positions. They need a true middle linebacker. And I just wrote about it for today. I said, can you get me a Sean Lee or a Dat Wynn or a Leighton Vander Esch? Heck, can I get Eric Kendricks? Guys that are middle linebackers. They didn't have a true middle linebacker this year. They got the guys on the outside that I think you can live with. And then I need depth at the cornerback position. I can't be going out there. I figured out today that they had 14 starts of guys that were let go by other teams, and they picked them up, as free agents at the start of the season. That's no way to do business. And some of it was because of injuries. Some of it because you weren't ready to play. And some of it was because guys you thought you could rely on just weren't any good. But, that cornerback position, as Jerry said in the press conference, that, Matt Eberflus had to do a lot of overcorrecting because of what they didn't have and trying to compensate for it. So, it's not just the defensive coordinator. They need defensive players.
They made the trade and they brought the linebacker in from Cincinnati. How is that? Is he there another year? Was a year or two left with him, or is that kind of like they need to move on from that with him when they brought him in?
I'm trying to remember. I think he's got a year left on his contract. And I don't know, they sort of liked him. Now you just got to see if, it's for real, because they really didn't play him all that much.
Yeah, there was one game they didn't play him at all, I think it was.
No. It was kind of a mistake from what I understand. but I don't think he's the solution. I think he could be maybe a rotation guy, but I don't know that you're going to sink your teeth into the guy.
Yeah, Logan Wilson is who I'm talking about. Yeah.
So
Logan Wilson.
With that, he's got a very cap-friendly contract in two different ways. He's got $6 million on the book, but they can also cut him for nothing. So so he's one of those guys that if they can't find anything better out there, he'll be a June 1st cut, and it means literally nothing to them.
Well, it doesn't have to be June 1st. They can do it right now if they want.
Yeah. So if they, exactly. They can cut him and go for nothing. There are going to be right now they're over the cap, Mickey, as it stands today, but there's going to be a lot of restructuring. They can create a ton of cap room. By the way, for those who don't know, but they can create a ton of it, and all of it, none of it doesn't really seems to be that outlandish. They've got to try to get Pickens back in, and that saga will go on as long as it normally goes on, more than likely. But when it comes to some of the restructuring and cuts, would it shock you to see Terrence Steele let go, because this would be the year to do it if they were going to do it?
Well, I think there's those decisions to be made, but you know what? They've got $20 million of cap space. They're not over, and they'll have some more that comes back from this year, like that what was left over. So, and then they just got to adjust. They got to adjust contracts, right? They'll do the deal with Dak. They'll do the deal with CD to pay him a restructure bonus. So they can create money to do what they need to do. So from a cap standpoint, I think they can manage this. So, but again, you don't know what the market value is for some of these guys. That's the key thing. So you've got to decide, I think, just what your priorities are. And I think the priorities are making sure that they try to re-sign Pickens, try to re-sign Javonte Williams, and also Jadeveon Clowney, but you don't know what the market value is. It's one thing for those guys to say, oh yeah, I want to stay here. Well, then the agent gets involved, right? And it's like, no, you're going to go where I can find you the best deal. There's a lot to go there, but, look, here's what you do know. You'd like from a defensive standpoint to get Clowney back. Okay, fine. You got 2 first-round picks, 12 and 20. Maybe you go and do what they did in 2005 when they picked up DeMarcus Ware and Marcus Spears and get 2 more defensive guys. But in the meantime, you got to find a coordinator first before you start using your draft choice and before, obviously, you get into free agency. So there's a lot of work to do, but they got to fix the defense. And you guys saw it. All you had to do was watch the playoff games, right? Look at what the Texans were. Oh. They were so good defensively, they compensated for a poor quarterback performance, right? Turned the ball over 3 times, and they were still going to win the game. That's how good sometimes the defense can make you be.
Yeah, that was because C.J. Stroud he was having a bad day, and they still weathered it and ended up winning the game pretty handily. So, Mickey, with the teams that are left, you've seen a lot of them. You have the Buffalo game at Denver. Denver's offense, of course, their defense at Denver's really good. It just depends on, can they nickel and dime you to death with Bo Nix? Josh Allen, here he is again. And then let's look at just tomorrow's game. San Francisco, last time I believe they played Seattle, the Seahawks beat the hell out of them in a game that might have been in San Francisco. Your thoughts about those two tomorrow?
Yeah, the San Francisco, with the injuries, they've had to try to survive, and they're still in the playoffs. Now, they've done a pretty good job defensively. And they had injuries on the offense. But Seattle at home, one thing I think I've learned is there's a reason why the teams that got buys, right? Because they were good. And they didn't have to play. And so we watch these first round games and it's like, oh yeah, this team's good and this other team's good, but they weren't as good through the entire season as the teams that got the buys. So I think that sometimes you get seduced by what those teams do in the first round, and then it's like, oh, this shows up in the next round when you're playing the very best team. So I like Denver. I think their defense, I always thought their offense was going to catch up with them, but it never has. And the same thing in Seattle. You never know what Darnold you're going to get. And have they finally said if he's going to play with his oblique strain?
He says he is.
Yep.
He says he is. They all say they are, right? So, and that's another thing, which quarterback are can those guys do it at this stage, in their careers? So, yeah, I guess we're about to find out. But look, I just think some of these games, I don't think there's any clear cut, oh, that team's going to win, right? If I was a betting guy, I wouldn't do it with your money.
Mickey, they don't have a lot of draft picks right now. There could be some compensatory picks. They have those 2 first rounders, but nothing in the second round, nothing in the third. Do you see them possibly do anything between now and possibly during the draft that would gain them picks in those rounds?
Like trading a first round draft choice?
Maybe look, trading back would make sense if they feel there's no value to a guy when they're at 12 or 20 or whatever. So I see that, but there's not really any like trade bait on the roster right now, is there?
Well, God, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got anybody on defense you want to trade or you want to trade for?
That's why I was trying to think of anybody. That's why I asked you, because I was like, I've been racking my brain for a week on this going, well, is there a position they have a glut of guys at that they could, spin somebody off for a third round pick? There's not.
I don't see anybody. I don't see excess receivers. Certainly there's no excess offensive linemen, right? Mm-hmm. Or tight ends. And, they got to decide at quarterback if they're going to stay with Milton or they're going to go somewhere else if there's a veteran available. So, yeah, no, not on offense, and Lord knows not on defense. So, yeah. And really, you got to wait if you're going to trade down on draft day, you got to wait to see how it turns out. You don't do that ahead of time, especially with the 20th pick. And at 12, you got to pick a walk-in starter, right? This guy's got to walk in and either start at defensive end, middle linebacker, or cornerback.
Speaking of cornerback, and I think you might have mentioned this a little bit about who they have and where they've been and how many starts. With who they have right now coming back at cornerback and with Bland having the foot, and I know I'm contracts or whatever, what do they have, Mickey? I mean, isn't that like a position that is just a shell of itself?
Well, if they had to start today, they would be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
Because it would be Savon Revel and Kalen Carson. Those would be your starters. And Reddy Stewart would have to continue playing in the slot. And, look at what they got out of him. He was with the Bears the year before. They let him go in free agency. Minnesota picked him up. He goes to training camp, and he gets cut. And Eberflus said, well, I know this guy. Let's see what we can get out of him. So they picked him up. So he is one of those guys that was basically a starter in the slot. Now, they tried moving Bland there, and that didn't work out as well as they thought. But again, they didn't have the guys on the outside to compensate for him. They tried Elam, and I think they found out why Buffalo just gave him away. And then Traquez Bridges. Now, there's another guy. He got drafted in the 7th round by the Chargers, and they let him go. And all of a sudden, he's out there starting a game or two for the Cowboys out of necessity. So, yeah, the cornerback position until Bland gets back, and he should be back in time. What happened was, he fractured that fifth metatarsal. They went in, did surgery, put a screw in there. Well, as it turned out, the screw cracked, and they had to do surgery, and they did it this week, and they put a bigger screw in there this time. So you got to hope that he's ready to go. But as Jerry pointed out in that press conference, he goes, when it comes down to feet, I get scared of feet. Like if you don't have good feet, you're going to have problems. So, yeah, they got to hope he comes through. And then, one of those first 2-round picks, it might have to be a cornerback. Now, you don't want to do it if the guy doesn't deserve to get drafted there. But somebody maybe falls to him in free agency. But again, if people are falling to you in free agency, somebody else didn't want them.
Yep, absolutely. Mickey, thank you very much. So I know your schedule calms down a little bit, but then again, it doesn't because you've got all these NFL meetings and then, of course, the combine and so much more. Is it a little bit easier on you now, your schedule, than when the season's going on, or is that just a dumb question?
No, it's here's the easy part. Or not easy. I don't have to do something every hour of every day, right?
Yeah.
Have something going on. Like, today I finished my column and it was easy. I could actually take a holiday off on Monday. We do our podcast once a week now. So yeah, but you know what? The East-West Shrine game showing up next week, right?
Yep.
And so, that'll take up some time. You get a chance to go to the practices. And, I remember last year when they played the game, I had no idea about that running back from Arizona State, Ja'Cory Merritt, whatever.
Yeah, the one who played for Washington.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And I saw him in the game, and I'm going, where'd this guy come from? Why is he in this bowl? Well, he didn't play last year. He was ineligible at Arizona State. And it turned out he ended up being a starting running back. So sometimes those little nuggets show up in the Shrine game bowl.
I'll give you the story on him. So he was at Arizona. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, Bill Krosky-Merritt, as he goes by. He played at a smaller school, and they could not figure out, based on the participation report from one of the years he played at that school, whether he played in a game or a different guy with the same jersey number played in the game. That's why he was
or maybe they thought he was Bill, huh?
Yeah, I don't know, but it was about the jersey number. College years dupes, and they couldn't figure out if he was number 35 or not, or whatever it was. So that's how he wound up not being able to play at Arizona last year.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Well, he was pretty good.
And he was.
My scouting eye, I saw him and I said, okay, this guy's not bad.
Mickey, thank you. Appreciate your time. Enjoy the weekend. Mickey Spagnola with us, DallasCowboys.com. Yeah, the young man from Arizona. He had a long run against the Cowboys in that game and looked good doing it, man. He got through the gap and then pop. He left everybody in the dust. All right. The game, the national championship, is Monday night, Indiana and Miami. Let's check in on how are the tickets today. We've done that with TickPick. It's the app and also on Twitter. Have they gone up? Have the prices gone down? Are there more tickets? What's going on with that? And we'll do that and more. And also have our championship game picks today coming up around the corner. And this is 365 Sports. Ideal, MRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace with Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners. What a great company. I've been inside their state-of-the-art imaging machine 4 different times, twice for my lower back, once for my upper back cervical, and then once when I had an MRI on my abdomen. And thank goodness that one came back clear. There was nothing to worry about. $497 or less every single time. The average MRI around the country is well over $1,000. It's in fact a little over $1,100, and it might be higher now than even 4 or 5 months ago. What they have is a state-of-the-art imaging machine with a great price, an incredible price for you, saving you money. Your doctor contacts them, says, hey, I want to get an MRI in a hip, a knee, an ankle, a shoulder, and they will then set you up, call you, get locked in with an appointment. And when you get there, this is not like a place with a huge waiting room like a hospital. It is a waiting room that has like 5 or 6, 8 chairs in it, and I have never waited more than 10 or 15 minutes when I've checked in. It is a very comfortable situation. The Texan specialists are unbelievable, and the price is great too at $497 or less at idealmri.com.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics, whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than HEB with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
What does being different mean to me? You know, that is an interesting question.
Because there really isn't one way. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it.
This is the Sonos Arc Ultra, and this is what you need to know about. It represents one of the easiest ways to get into high-quality home cinema without loads of cables and faffing around. And that's because the Arc Ultra provides full Dolby Atmos without any rear speakers thanks to its sound motion technology. And Sonos is actually calling sound motion one of the most significant breakthroughs in audio engineering in nearly 100 years. It's an amazing setup, it sounds absolutely fantastic, I love the absence of fat. If you're a Sonos person, there's a reason you're watching this video.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports.
So here's some interesting stories. One of them is Utah AD Mark Harlan, who has popped off a few times. Remember after the BYU game and a few other things. So there's a young man, Celeste Moa. He is set to announce. In fact, I have not looked whether he made the announcement today, but set to make the announcement today. And he was, and you can see the Rivals' short-term Utah signee. Mark Harlan, who responded to the tweet on his announcement, well, he was with us in class for last week. Public announcement, seen it all now. In other words, he was in class with Utah last week and now making what might be a commitment. I have not seen where he committed, but maybe changing his mind even if he was in class.
Well, I don't know. He's making the commitment at the Polynesian Bowl today, so I'm sure if he has that it's out there, but it's probably later tonight, I would think, but not sure exactly on the timing. That's not what's getting attention really at this point. It's Mark Harlan's reaction to it and him being petty and saying something that a lot of other athletic directors probably would have refrained from saying, probably would have just not commented on it at all. And I will start by saying, do I agree with Mark Harlan that this is ridiculous, that a guy who was just in class with you a few days ago is already turning around and entering the transfer portal and now making a big announcement at an all-star game? Yeah, I find that pretty ridiculous. Now, he was a big get early 5-star enrollee for them, a legacy. So a really big deal for Utah to get him and bring him into the fold. And then, a really bad look in turn of events to then have him on campus for a few days going to classes and then turning around and saying, hey, I'm announcing at this Polynesian Bowl. So I think the frustration is warranted, but this is the third or fourth time now that Mark Harlan has gone a step farther than a lot of other athletic directors as far as being, I guess, what you would consider professional about these things. And so he's far from the first athletic director to complain about the state of things. Jeremiah Dickey's doing it all the time, right? Mack Rhodes, when he used to join us, complained about the way things were all the time, but you didn't go like specifically at a certain situation necessarily. And it doesn't also help, let's acknowledge that anytime Utah does anything negative, there are thousands of BYU fans that are there to jump on it like sharks with chum in the water. And so if you saw this going viral at a rapid rate, I would bet my next paycheck that like 90% of that was driven by BYU fans saying, y'all see this guy, what he said now? And so it got out there, and it was a bad look for him, and people were predicting that it would be deleted in short order, and it was deleted. And I've seen a mixed reaction from Utah fans because on the one hand, they kind of agree with what he's saying, but they don't agree with the fact that he said it and went public with it on Twitter in a position like his of athletic director. And then there are those who don't care whether he had any merit to what he was actually saying or not. It's just another embarrassing Mark Harlan situation, right? Where you've had this now happen nearly a handful of times that he's had to apologize for something or walk back something, or just pops off and doesn't know how to restrain himself from popping off, whether in a post-game press conference after a really tough loss or on Twitter, or when he was denying that Utah was going to the Big 12 and was being kind of an ass about it.
Yep.
And, well, surprise, here they were a few weeks later, and they were in the Big 12. So he's just had a few of these moments that have added up where you're just like, just log off, dude. Like, get off Twitter and give your account to somebody else and let them run this thing, because we don't need you late night tweeting about decommitments and flips and things of that nature, especially when it's a 5-star legacy player that obviously we're hurting to lose right now, but could cause ramifications down the line, right? Because of the close relationship there. So, I see both sides of it. I think it probably got a bit overblown because of who their arch rival is. And I think that he wasn't wrong necessarily in the heart of what he was saying, but in his position, he doesn't need to be popping off on Twitter late night about decommitments and saying what he said here, which is very clearly like, seen it all now. Like, he was with us in class for a last week public announcement. Seen it all now? Probably not. No, you probably haven't seen it all now because you didn't see the Darian Mensah story when you tweeted this. And then that's another thing to this. So I just think it's an adding up of kind of embarrassing moments for Utah fans that's driving them insane, that feel he should be a bit more professional. And I can understand that. And I also know this. It's a very rough time at Utah right now because of all the Kyle Whittingham fallout. And he's at the center of that as well. Like, did he help drive Kyle Whittingham out because they wanted to make the move to Morgan Scalley and they had to make the move to Morgan Scalley or else he was going to leave? And then to see all of the John Paul Dailies and everybody that's now followed suit and followed in the portal, including what very well could be 5-star, 4-star Celeste Moa at the Polynesian Bowl. I just think it's a real rough patch right now for the Utes, and this didn't help matters in any way, shape, or form. And your rival is there to remind you of how good their offseason is and how much your AD is putting his foot in his mouth once again. And so it's a double whammy for Utah fans.
He has this is not an updated tweet. There's a lot of different teams, but yeah, initially, and not a lot of Utah fans are mad at Mark Harlan. Like, because what if he actually wasn't going to change his mind? But I think the writing was already on the wall that he was. And that Polynesian
he's responding to a tweet saying he's making a decision.
Yeah.
So he already clearly was changing.
Well, but these all-star games, most of these guys have already almost made their decisions, and then they get to go on TV and make them again.
But you're on campus already. You've already committed.
No, I understand that. But it sounds like he's going somewhere else, obviously. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point of the tweet.
But the AD doesn't need to say a word.
Right.
No, that's why I actually put it in the – I agree with you. I'm agreeing with all you guys. But Harlan didn't help any at all. But the fact is, a lot of the guys that commit on TV have already made commitments anyway. But Harlan just doesn't seem to know how to, late night get off and don't say anything. Utah fans are furious with him right now. And a legacy, as you said, with the Utah football team, too. So there we are with that one. Paul Catalina, a couple of edge rushers, Florida State, the Mandrell sisters.
No,
remember them?
The Desir twins.
Mandrell and Daryl Desir.
Yes, they're both very good players. They're actually the only true, well, not the only, but the only true bright spots from the front seven from Florida State last year. They jumped in the portal. There was a lot of thought about Ohio State, Miami, and they decided to stay. They came back. This has happened to Florida State a lot this year, where they've had guys go in the portal and then jump back in. Now, they've lost some guys that they wanted to keep.
Everybody does.
Yeah, but they have actually done a good job of getting most of these guys back. But the problem is that they are not negotiating from a place of strength at all, in that all the players know what a rocky road it's going to be for Mike Norvell. And then it didn't help that the athletic director basically went out and did a press conference saying, yes, we are going to spend on players. And then all their agents going to be like, okay, we're going to hold you to that there, Mikey A. Let's go ahead. And so here they are negotiating from no place of strength, reportedly being hamstrung on budget. And then this goes over and over and over again. And this is exactly what happened after the 2023 season. It's repeating itself now. And hopefully they can gel together and get some chemistry. But it is an absolute nightmare when it comes to the portal at Florida State right now, because, again, the athletic director basically dared all these players to get in and renegotiate.
Anything on him?
No, I don't know. I think Paul kind of summed it up there. I think it's just another crazy story that's out there. So,
Frank Selfo, he is the head football coach at Southeast Louisiana. He, last night, I've known Frank since 1989. Yes, he was a high school football coach in Tyler at Chapel Hill High School, just on the east side of Tyler. So Ross Dellinger put the story up at Georgia President. We discussed this. Jerry Moorhead, if the CSC is not going to enforce the settlement, if the NCAA is not going to enforce tampering, and if Congress is not going to pass the SCORE Act, then it leaves the SEC in a position that we have go on our own way and create our rules. Well, Frank Selfo, who's the head coach at Southeast Louisiana, has been in college coaching, coached under Jeff Traylor at UTSA. He said, hey, President Moorhead, why don't you and your Commissioner Sankey start by enforcing yourselves? Lion Up Football had an SEC GM contact one of my players last night who wasn't in the portal to tell him to get in the portal, take care of your own yard.
Yeah, and that's what we've talked about for days and days of everybody's like, oh, these rules are bad. There's no rules. Give us rules. And then the minute they're like, okay, well, here's the rules. We're like, not those rules specifically, ones that will help us, not hurt us. And the president of Georgia can complain all he wants, but the hardest recruiter in the country and the guy who spends the most money on recruiting is who? What school has the biggest recruiting budget in the country?
I mean, is it Texas? Is it Ohio State?
I wouldn't be asking this question if the answer wasn't obvious. We're talking about Georgia. Kirby Smart has the largest recruiting budget in the country.
All right.
He spends more on recruiting travel. He spends more on all of that stuff.
Good for him.
He hustles. So if you are going to think, and I'm not even begrudging Kirby Smart for doing what every other coach is doing, but the president should know that if you're going to complain about tampering and all these other things, you should know that your coach is likely doing that too, because no one is recruiting as hard as Kirby Smart is.
All right, so the response after this, I was just curious, is that A lot of people say, go, coach, we love you. Thank you very much. Saw your passion after losing the bowl game or whatever. And then there were some, hey, you coward, how come you don't show us receipts? And, we discussed this with Jeff Traylor, 2 years ago about tampering. He said it. Others have said it. Why don't you give us names or whatever? And maybe there's just that you don't do that. And it might also be agents contacting or being contacted, not actually the player. But he's saying here that a player was called last night by a school, and that school, of course, is in the SEC.
I think part of it is mutually assured destruction, though. Why didn't we have nuclear war in the Cold War? Well, it's because both the sides knew that they didn't want to have to clean up after that. So if you are going to come with receipts, and I'm going to say right here, here's what I got. Your guy called last night. Jim Smith called my player, and this is the call. It lasted 5 minutes, and this is what the player says was offered to him and told to him. Well, then all that's going to happen is one of your rivals or that school is going to lay in the weeds until one of your guys does it. Or
maybe he already has.
Or already has and knows something. So, and if you're a head coach, part of the problem with that is sometimes you don't ask things you don't want to know. And you don't know that, hey, we got this guy. Well, how did you do it? Well, we back channeled all the way to him and got him. You can complain about all you want, and I think that they're all right to complain about it. But also, if you're going to drop receipts, you have to know, you better know everything that's going on in your own program. And sometimes that's not true.
One of the concerns was, and somebody brought this up, that he's in Louisiana, and LSU football is really all there is. With all due respect to the other programs, I have a lot of respect for a lot of the programs outside of LSU, but we know that's the alpha dog, and that he could cut his throat.
The governor's never intervened in a ULM coaching search.
No,
right?
You're right. So
it's a different thing. But yeah, he's right to call it out. And if people want to see receipts, understand that part of it's going to have to be, it's kind of like the Astros scandal, where there's going to have to be some qualified immunity that goes on with that, because it's just going to be something going, look, I'm tired of being a part of this. Here's what I've done. And I don't think that's really going to happen.
Yeah. So I just known him for a while. I reached out to him. Maybe we'll get him on to discuss it sometime next week. But he wrestled gators when he was younger.
He's that Cajun?
Yeah, he's that Cajun. He's Garrett Ross level. This is a guy that he's about as Cajun as anyone I've ever known. A hell of a coach, great guy. He's been around. He's coached at a lot of different places. But those who, of course, a lot of people want to post up on somebody on Twitter, and I threw out the fact he wrestled gators when he was younger, and people got a little laugh out of that because I really enjoy Frank Selfo. He can get hot, and so I don't know where this goes from here. All right, the last part, college football playoff on Monday night will have a huge audience. How many millions do you think it'll be as a viewership? 30, 25? What is going to be NFL numbers at all? No, probably not.
I think it'll probably be in the teens. Don't you, Craig?
Yeah, it'll be in the teens because that's what it typically is. It's never going to get close to 30 with this matchup, I wouldn't think. If it does, then Indiana is the new face of college football, and the Big Ten is going to get a massive new media upgrade just simply based off Indiana's rise to a TV ratings juggernaut. So 30 would be shocking. That's NFL numbers. Somewhere in the teens, but I don't know where it falls in that because of the two fan bases involved. I'm not sure geographically how much the West Coast cares about this matchup, or that kind of thing. How much the Deep South will be invested in this matchup versus maybe others when you've had Alabama, Georgia, all these teams for the last several years. So I think it'll be a good number, but yeah, no idea what to expect as far as the ceiling on it.
Last year you had two massive names with Notre Dame and Ohio State. It had 22.1 million, peaked at one point near around 25 million. Indiana's got a hell of a following, but they only have 800,000 living alumni. There's going to be college football fans that will also be watching it. But
did you say only 800,000 living alumni?
Well, compared to millions of dollars, millions of viewers, yeah.
Well, look, that's great. All 800,000 aren't going to watch it, but if they get half, that's good.
Yeah, no. So that's Monday night. So here are, according to Nielsen, the top 10 local markets when it comes to cities in college football viewership. No surprise whatsoever with Birmingham, Alabama, maybe the capital of college football in America. Columbus, Ohio, yeah, kind of a pretty large school that resides in Columbus. Dayton, Ohio, probably a little bit of that feedback from Ohio State. There's a southern city, then Tulsa with Oklahoma, and the love of Oklahoma plus Oklahoma State and Tulsa. Oklahoma City, Atlanta, that's like where the SEC all but resides.
Well, that's where the SEC and ACC overlap.
Yep. Then you have Knoxville, another one. New Orleans, of course, yes, and Jacksonville, Florida at number 10.
Yeah, Jacksonville's also that, is ACC and SEC overlapping. So none of that surprising. Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville, that was at 4. That one kind of jumped out at me. Tulsa being so high, although Tulsa's kind of a big city. I shouldn't be that surprised. It's not, especially as far as Oklahoma and Oklahoma City, the state of Oklahoma goes. I mean, those are the two big cities.
Yeah, I mean, it's you see why the SEC is so popular is they've got a lot of the hotbeds of the ratings here, and a lot of their flagship schools residing in the areas or directly in the case of like Knoxville, obviously. But yeah, I mean, there's a heavy lean to a certain part of the country, and we're seeing that bear out in the TV ratings. So I don't think it's a surprise. There's no New York City or Detroit or Chicago even on here. Yeah, but Birmingham's always the number one, and it'll be a banner day or a day of note when they're not. And who are they replaced by? I guess Columbus or Dayton would be the top candidate here, but Birmingham, got to hand it to them. There's no argument about number one market in the country when it comes to college football.
They are very good at watching everybody else.
Yeah,
like Alabama,
love college football. Yeah,
I'll just say Alabama and Ohio State want to know what everybody's doing. They want to know what everybody's doing. They're not the Ohio State and Alabama fans are not the ones like, I watch my team when they're on, but that's it. No. They want to know everything that everybody's doing, because if they do, then when things go poorly there, they can be like, hey, Kalen, you know what you're not doing? What these guys are doing. You know how I know? Because I watched that shit.
Yep. By the way, the Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville market, it's a heavy Clemson Tigers. And even heavy, believe it or not, I'm not sure how many viewers, but Appalachian State, part of the strong ties with the ACC, and then, of course, with the SEC, too.
It's just why, I mean, none of those places are very big. I mean, together they're a big place, but still, none of them are you would never say, like, hey, I'm going to Spartanburg for vacation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Unless you're maybe from the East Coast, ACC or SEC or something like that. All right, Paul Catalina, the top 5. We'll have the wheel. We'll have, we got to make our picks. That's right. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I don't think there's going to be any changes here. Craig, you're the leader. You make the first pick.
I am the leader. I am the winner, and I'm going to take Indiana to win this game. I think they are the better team just overall and are rolling in so hot right now that certainly Miami might have some good fans there, and I think it'll be an incredible scene there. But Indiana's been just such a juggernaut. I can't wait to the battle in the trenches and how they attack Mendoza, but I'm going to ride the hot hand, and I'm going to take the number one team in the Hoosiers. Although I just really care about it being a great game at this point. Got nothing to win or lose now with this pick, but I just want a good game, and I think Indiana wins.
I cannot catch Craig, even if I would have picked Miami and they'd won, but I wasn't worried about so much of that. I just want to be right, and I take Indiana too.
Yeah, I think that Miami will make them earn it because they're so good up front on both sides of the ball, but when you measure it out across maybe all the spaces, Indiana is just collectively better, and they're on a mission. So I'll take Indiana, although Hard Rock Stadium will have never hopped as much for a Miami game as it will on Monday night. It'll be the first time probably that they have a true home field advantage in there if it keeps trending how it's trending. So I'm very curious to see that, because I don't think literally until Monday night that they have had a home field advantage since they moved to that stadium.
By the way, TickPick says that the price now to get in has gone up to $3,500. Remember, yesterday it was around $2,700 to $2,900. A ticket's still available around $3,800, but the number has jumped to $3,500 to get in to that game. And that's just one ticket, $3,700 or $3,500. All right. Paul Catalina and the top 5, wheel and the quizzes and the poll results, all of that. Tulsa's got 800,000, by the way, in their market. That's a big market, bigger than I thought. This is 365 Sports.
During the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Waco. Drive a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $13,000 off or choose 0% financing. Get a new Laramie Crew Cab 4-wheel drive with 3.9% financing for 72 months plus $15,000 off MSRP. Explore in a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo starting at $31,990. Happening now at Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome to Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports. This is 2025's most hilarious outcomes of college football. Maybe ridiculousness when it comes to the bigger picture or things that are in the narrative. So just follow with me here. You'll see where I'm going. Number 5, Clemson and FSU changed the ACC rules on payouts, and Miami gets all the money. Clemson and FSU were so convinced that all this money was just going to come to them most every year that they fought to change the rules on distribution. This is probably actually overall a good idea for everybody in the ACC, but it does, mean that not everybody's going to get money from the playoff payouts every year. Well, I'm pretty sure that both these schools thought that one of them was going to get it this year, especially since Clemson was preseason ranked number 2 in the country. Now, Florida State's another thing, but after that Alabama win, I'm sure they thought, we're going to be counting money, get a new jet, all those things. And guess what? Miami got it. Miami is in the national championship game, $32 million in their pocket. So congratulations, guys. You did it. Number 4, the SEC brags about its strength again. And for the 3rd consecutive year, will not have a national champion. Now, yes, it's a tough conference. They're all tough in their own right, but the propaganda train is running on low steam right now. And maybe the SEC's been found out. They've been plucked in the transfer portal and all that. So now the narrative is going to shift to what is best for everyone. Greg Sankey's already doing it, but there's the throw out of there of if we can't figure out how to govern ourselves, then we'll just play against ourselves and blah, 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 whatever. But the SEC continue to brag, and they are continuing to fall behind where they used to be. Still a very strong conference, but not what they used to be. Number 3, week 1 meant nothing. Brian Kelly got his first huge non-conference win over Clemson. Well, guess what? Clemson sucked. Florida State drilled Alabama and then went 5-7, and Alabama with 3 losses still made the playoff because of shenanigans from the ACC. So we saw these crazy week 1 upsets, and it just goes to show you that the season is long. Things will change throughout. Brian Kelly thought, I beat Clemson. It's finally going to be easier here. We are on the path. And guess what happened? He was fired in the middle of the season. LSU fans left a game early to drink in sorrow instead of joy. Not what usually happens in Baton Rouge. And now Lane Kiffin's there. That should have been a hilarious outcome too, but we've talked about Lane Kiffin too much. Number 2, no one wants to leave college anymore. I could have used TJ Finley on this, but there are multiple lawsuits going on. Used to be kids couldn't get out fast enough and declare for the NFL. NIL now has made them say the grass isn't always greener on the other side, but I use Trinidad Chambliss here because back in October, he filed to have his eligibility for a year where he was injured at Ferris State restored, where he didn't get a medical red shirt that he feels that he should have. He has so far not been successful in that case, but that was started in October. And he was only a few games into being the starter at Ole Miss and wanted to see where this could go. Now, after the season has gone on and Dante Moore is not in the draft, I could have also used his picture here. He is staying for another year. He is likely the third highest ranked quarterback in the NFL draft. So he has to kind of ride out this lawsuit, and he's not declared for the draft officially yet. Now, he may be able to get a supplemental spot, but if he doesn't get his eligibility back, this is a weird thing because the deadline to enter the draft was Wednesday. So we'll see what happens with Trinidad Chambliss on down the line, but this is a weird story all the way around, and it goes to show that Trinidad Chambliss, Dante Moore, college football is now maybe not the worst thing to stay at. Make a little money, get better, and then improve your draft stock for the next year. That wasn't always an incentive. That wasn't not an incentive for a long time for a lot of guys, because why am I going to go risk injury and make no money? And number one, Curt Cignetti outfoxes the world. I think a lot of teams in college football, a lot of pundits in college football, a lot of us, I'll probably throw myself into this, thought, well, Indiana had a great year last year. Curt Cignetti's this really good coach. He's going to win there, but they won the scheduling lottery in 2024. In 2025, they didn't win the scheduling lottery. But before the season, there's a lot of talk about how they didn't want to play tough non-cons. Well, guess what? It doesn't really matter what he said all then, because all they've done is kick every single team's ass they've played, except for Penn State. And they still found a way to win that game when they didn't have their best stuff. And now are staring at potentially their first national championship in school history because Curt Cignetti outfoxed the world. He absolutely knew how to build a roster. He knew how to do it. He is corner the market on the modern roster building era and how to do it in 2025. Curt Cignetti, coach of the year every which way around, an unbelievable story, and hilarious that we all thought Indiana was a fluke. And he just said, oh, I'm no fluke. He's Thanos. He's like, I'm inevitable, son. I'm coming. You watch out. Google me, I win should be tattooed on his back. Curt Cignetti, kudos to you, sir. Kudos. That's going to do it for the top five. The carnival begins now.
That thing leans over too much further. You're going to be cutting like deli meat.
No, I know. So, for someone who is visiting Waco, what's a great restaurant to go to?
If somebody mentions one, I'm going to lose my mind to close out the week, which I know the answer is going to be. Go ahead.
No, it's not. I'm not going to say, a lot of people would say George's. I'm not going to say that one, even though it's a fine place. But I would say that we have two places that you have to go. One would be Hellberg Barbecue, and the other one would be Double R. I think Double R is one of the best hamburgers I've ever had in my life, even though Garrett totally disagrees with me. He's never had the sourdough bun, so he doesn't know what he's missing. But the sourdough bun at Double R is the best hamburger I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, I like Double R a lot. I mean, George's is a go-to. It's good. It's just the default answer, I think. So yeah, I mean, either one of those places. I don't travel around as much as the two of you, so I haven't probably been to as many places around here as y'all have. So I'll default to y'all. But I mean, those two are usual answers, and they are both good answers. I like Hecho and Waco.
Oh yeah, it's
really good as well downtown. Mexican food. That's a good little spot. So I'd add that in there.
Marco's Pizza. No, it'd be a great place. And we love Bob Mock and Marco's.
You likely have one of those in your town.
Friday's Cajun restaurant. It's off of what they call what?
Cajun?
No. This is off of Old Dallas Highway.
Highway 77 or whatever it is. It's in between. It's south of Lakeshore Drive. And it's called Fridays, and it is really good. I love it. I probably go there 10 times a year. Not there all the time, but I love it. It's very, very good. Anything they have, whether it's shrimp or what did I get you, Garrett, that one time, that sandwich? A poor boy, right? Yeah, it was with crawfish.
It was a crawfish po' boy.
Was it any good?
It was awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah,
they're at Friday, and their jambalaya
it's all good.
For.
It's all really good.
It's very authentic. Like, This is as far away from Louisiana as I've been where you've found authentic Cajun.
Mhm.
A lot of times you'll go to a place and you'll see like, oh, they've got Cajun food on the menu. And it's just like they read jambalaya is rice.
Yeah,
And
I mean, there's a lot of
you know,
places that do Cajun food, but that's
Yeah.
the one. That's where I would go because it's an unknown. It's not a franchise. It's
a
not
hole in
like,
the wall for
it's
sure.
a hole in the wall. I love it.
Yeah,
All
off
right.
the beaten path. So yeah, those I would certainly support that. Okay, let's go to our trivia questions. The first NFL game played at night in 1929 featured a unique piece of equipment to help players see under lights. What was it? Glow-in-the-dark helmets, reflective cleats, a white football, or neon-colored jerseys. I'm going to guess a white football.
Whoop, that was an alarm. I was going to say the eye black, but it's not on there.
Yeah.
All right. I would think it's got to be white football. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what glow-in-the-dark or reflective technology was like in 29.
That neon colored jersey looks like a onesie for a baby, though.
Yeah. Maybe what it is. Let's go. I'm going to say white football. Any objections?
No, I mean, I don't know that they had all the other stuff at that point in time to be able to put glow-in-the-dark helmets together. I'm not sure if they had that in 1929. So, yeah, white football sounds right.
Yeah, but white leather or pigskin, they could do that. Yeah,
There it
white
is.
football.
Yep.
The Providence Steamrollers and Chicago Cardinals used a white football in the first NFL game at night on November 6, 1929 to improve visibility under dim floodlights. The white ball stayed in use into the 1950s, including by autogram in the 1960 or was it 60 or 50? Got a smudge on my glasses.
50.
Cleveland Browns, but players found it slippery and hard to see against white uniforms. By 1956, it was phased out thanks to better stadium lighting.
Yeah, I don't know what they would have done for any neon unless they would have like put some kind of nuclear liquid inside a helmet, which would probably means they'd die if they did that. All right.
Which sports venue it sits dead last in Yelp's ratings Hall of Shame? Northwest Stadium, MetLife Stadium, Tropicana Field.
It's got to be that one.
I would think it's Tropicana Field.
And KeyBank Center. Where's KeyBank Center at? I don't know where that is.
Yeah.
MetLife is in Jersey.
Yeah, and that one's new. So
yeah. I was impressed when I went to the Super Bowl there. It's very nice because
why is Tropicana Fields a house? I don't know, but
it's the one that has a roof that's too low. It's a shithole, and it's hard to get to. So it's also hard to leave if you decide you want to get there. That's the one I would say.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a horrible place for baseball. It's a travesty to the game. I'm going to say Tropicana Field.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know any different on some of the others. Like I don't know about KeyBank Center. So yeah, Tropicana Field sounds right to me.
Let's see, Tropicana Northwest Stadium.
Of course it is. The Commanders. It's just old Daniel Snyder.
I didn't recognize the name of it.
Yeah.
That's how little I know about their stadium.
Yeah, because it used to be FedEx Field. Now it's not.
Now that it says it, I realize it. But yeah, I just think of it as FedEx Field.
Yeah. Well, all four are often criticized. The Commanders Stadium in Landover, Maryland, stands out as the worst with a Yelp rating of 2.5 stars.
Not a surprise.
Notorious for a 2021 sewage leak that sprayed fans with sewage waste and railings that collapsed under crowd weight. Reviewers called it a dump and a commuter nightmare. Yes. Hope is coming, though, with a $3.7 billion dome stadium at the redeveloped RFK site for the 2030 season.
Where they had that football stadium that was when they were really, really good in football. And by the way, I saw an image. They put an image up of what it looks like. Kind of, just the image to tease everybody. All right. Which portal king had the most success? Kiffin, Signetti, Sarkisian, or Joey Maguire?
Well, Signetti's in the national championship game, so 42% for him makes sense. I think they've had a really great portal class this year and last year. So, yeah, Kurt Signetti being at 42 makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that one. All four have had really good starts, and all four are in really good position for next year. I wanted to see, Indiana's got the number one class right now, and they're playing for a title. So I don't think there's any argument, no matter how good some of the other classes may be, that they've got the best one. Although Tech is there at number 2. Let's see where everybody else is right now. LSU and Texas. LSU's at 8, Texas at 11. So they're all almost top 10 at this point. But, yeah, one of them's playing for a national title. 2 of them didn't even make the playoff, and one of them had an appearance before bowing out to Oregon. So, yeah, give me the guy who's still playing at this point and has the number 1 class, arguably, according to On3.
If you use Kiffin's former team, then they're a playoff team too, and Sarkisian's the one that's out. But of those 4 right now, they all would still be in the mix for this year with what they've been able to do already. All right, Andrew, thank you very much. Which blockbuster are you watching first on Doomsday?
Okay, so
what does this mean?
This is Avengers Doomsday and Dune Part 3 are both coming out on December 18th.
Movies? Theater?
Yes, these are movies, okay. Yes. And so they're both huge movies. One is a Marvel movie. One is, Dune, which is epic and wonderful. So 37% picked Dune over Doomsday at 27%. 29% will wait for streaming, and 7% of people do not have anything else to do with a back-to-back marathon.
How long
of what are going to be? They're both going to be about 3 hours.
You act like you aren't going to be a part of that 7%, Paul. As far as
no. Here's what I know: I will not be allowed to be. I would be if I was single, but I will not be allowed to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. There's no way I could convince her, like, hey, I'm going to be gone all day watching movies.
I mean, as far as this goes, I really enjoyed the Dunes so far. The first 2 of them, I think, have been really good. Enjoyed the casting and all of the action and everything. But I'm looking forward to seeing Doomsday most as of right now, because I haven't seen an MCU movie in about 5 years that I've given any sort of a S about whatsoever. I know there's been some that have been okay, but there have been a lot that suck, like that I have not enjoyed at all. I am so checked out on the MCU, so this actually has me somewhat interested in dipping my toes back in just to see what they do and how they pull it off and everything. And to see Robert Downey as Dr. Doom, I think will be cool.
A couple of them I just watched on airplanes because they were the length of my flight.
Yeah. Yeah,
like that way I can watch.
There's a couple. I was like, I'd never turn off movies before the end. There's been a couple. I'm like, I don't care to watch the rest of this. It's
I'll just
awful.
wait for the post-credit scene to pop up online so I know what the next movie is going to be about.
That's exactly. That's all I cared about was the post-credit scene. Yeah.
When we flew from San Antonio, Texas to Japan, one of the movies on that flight was The French Connection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's forever ago.
Pretty intense,
For some reason, that's the only one I remember. Maybe I slept through the other ones. That's a long flight. San Antonio to Frisco to Hawaii for a stopover, and then to Japan, that's a long, long flight.
You know what that movie is famous for?
No.
It's got the best car chase scene. No one's ever topped it in any movie ever.
Garrett Ross, thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Brandon Rowe, and thank you, Andrew Valade. Thanks to our sponsors and those of you who digest us in every way or any way you do, and our great sponsors. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, we're back Monday to discuss the championship game that night. Have a great weekend. Baylor, Kansas men's basketball tonight, by the way. And Lawrence, good night. Have a great weekend.